Okay. So please note that everything discussed during this meeting is confidential, and by agreeing to receive such information, you're required to keep all such information confidential. Additionally, please note that Black Spectacles takes the cheating and content disclosure and the ARE candidate agreement policies set forth by NCARB very seriously. Should you share any information that would violate the terms set forth in those policies, Black Spectacles will be required to report you to NCARB. A copy of these policies can be found at this website. By being involved in this program, you're committed to sending in questions, being active during meetings and on Slack, and being present at every meeting for the full length of said meeting unless your daughter is going to cut your head off. Should you miss one meeting or fail to abide by the above, you will be required to leave the program with no refund. Additionally, you confirm you will not share any copyrighted materials whatsoever over Slack, email, etc. Lastly, you confirm you will be respectful of all of the program participants, candidates and coaches, regardless of race, religion, sexual orientation, etc. Okay. With that, let's. Does anybody have any other questions or comments, issues before we dive in? No.
My only thing was, I know I asked you on Slack, but it's kind of hard to decide which books to study from because, I mean, if you look at the list that NCARB recommends, it's like 25 books.
Yep.
So from the list you sent me, would it be best we kind of refer to books that overlap, like the ones you recommended that kind of overlap the other two categories to study for PA?
Yes. Yeah. For this exam, and I sent you my breakdown of the PA, kind of went through section by section. Did you receive that, Miranda?
The one you sent this morning?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I seen it. I didn't open it yet.
Yeah, I'll go through that. We'll go through that right now then, because that's a good way to start. So here it is. I've tried to create this for each of the sections, so I've definitely got them for PPD and PDD as well. So I think you're kind of set now for the rest of the exams. This is something I do on my own. I don't have any assistance anywhere else to put this together. So this is kind of what I put together from responses from other candidates, if they've taken the test, etc. So basically, these are the books I've got listed right up here. These are the ones I believe you really need to have available and study. This practice, the Project Resource Manual, 5th edition. I don't know if you know. Does anybody have this book?
Alexandra shared it on Slack.
Oh, she did. Okay, so you got access to it. Great. It's a pretty big book, right? But it's really going to be valuable for PDD. So it's a must book for PDD, and it's got a few chapters in it for PA that are worth reading. So I think it's a great book to have, but it's not a read all content. Fundamentals of Building Construction, pretty much, as you'll see, as I've got listed down below here, I've listed page numbers of all these different books and topics. But these Studio Companion, of course, is still your primary book. It's going to be needed for PPD and PDD. Review Manual Ballast is basically your go-to book all the time. Because it's comprehensive, it covers all the topics. I wouldn't go into a lot of detail on calculations through that book because it gets way too detailed, and you're not going to find those calcs on the exam. But I think the overall content, particularly in PA, is worth reading. So here I've listed where it is. It's chapters 7.1 through 11.16. So then what I've done is basically in red you'll see the topics and the sections, and then I've given you the resources. I'm referring to my formulas file, the page numbers, etc. Graphic stand. Now, some books I didn't put at the top because I didn't feel like they were things you needed to actually read through completely, but I did find there's invaluable information in graphic standards and in sun, wind, and light. Does everybody know what sun, wind, and light? It's a complicated book to go through, but I just found it on these pages. If you're looking for some additional help and you want to get that book, again, I typically find these books either free online because I do a good search for PDF, and I can usually find it somewhere on the internet where I can get it for free, or I buy it at a discount rate. less. I never pay more than $25 for a book. So here we go on the objective 1.3. You'll see pretty much the same types of books I'm using, Review Malice. So you can go through this on your own. Some of these I get really, really extensive. Studio Companion on this section, I've given you all the different topics and page numbers to go look at. So what I'm trying to do here is help you sort through. This book is really important for PA, Site Plan and Design Handbook. It's a good book to have in your collection anyway, but it's pretty valuable for this particular exam. And I've given you a list of the subject matters there. This is what I've done here is I've given you the actual links to free PDFs. So this is the International Residential Code. And you need to, for some reason, some questions come up that refer to the residential code. And the only time you need to be aware of they may be referring to this code as opposed to IBC is when they use the word residential in the question. Okay, so if they're talking about a residential, we're building a four-story multifamily house or unit or a single-family home in Utah, what would be the required distance between the wall and the toilet, or the wall and the lavatory? And it's different in IRC than it is in IBC. And why they do that, I don't know. But this is a free link to that code. Here's a free link to get the IGCC code. And I think you just need to just kind of glance through it. The energy code links are here. And of course you can get IBC 2015. That's the code that we're using now for NCARB 2015. If any of you are aware of it, there's a new edition that just came out that I think is really helpful. Sorry, I'm just sorting through it here. It's called the 2015 IBC Code and Commentary, Part 1 and Part 2. And you can get those two books if your firm doesn't. Your firm should get them, by the way, if they don't have them. They're recent, and the commentary sections really explain some of the codes really, really well. So I recommend that book for your firm, and you can get it online for less than $100, both Part 1 and Part 2. You can't get it as an ebook right now. So again, here I'm just going through the different chapters in IBC and what you need to be looking at specifically, so you don't have to sort through them all. Quite a bit there. ADA. These are really big on the exam, by the way, IBC and ADA. And so I've just given you some illustrations here. So I'm just going to zoom through this. This is just what you have at hand now. Here's the next objective, 2.2. So this is FAR, zoning land requirements, etc. So historic preservation. These are links to different guides on historic preservation. There'll be questions on historic preservation, so you need to get up on that. I think the best initial read on that is the review manual. Ballast. He gives a pretty good overview of the historic preservation issues. But then if you want to go into a little bit more detail, then you can go to these links. Again, I'm referring here to, I've even given you, it looks like well, you already talked about that, right? Here's a free link to the book, Site Plan and Design Handbook. It's a good book for these topics that are going to be on the exam: brownfields, floodplains, and wetlands. Site analysis and programming. So Ben Ballast is really good. These chapters 7 and 9. These are quick reads. Again, site planning book. Again, so you can see pretty much if you just have these books that I'm illustrating here, I don't think you need to go to any other resource books for this exam. Okay, building analysis and programming. So here you're analyzing existing new building relative to requirements in a project program to determine it's appropriate and feasible for the renovation, repurposing, and preservation. So there could be questions that focus on the client has purchased a new building, is going to renovate it. So what would be the use classification if they switched from here to here, and is there a firewall required between them? Or if there's some weird things about if he's renovating and he's concerned about disturbance of the renovation for dust, so what type of wall section would be appropriate? So they're giving you choices of like a insulated stud wall, wood stud wall, going up through the ceiling up to the deck, or a metal stud wall that's not insulated going up to the deck, or a insulated wall just going just above the drop ceiling, or a metal stud wall going just below the drop ceiling. So questions like that are going to be things which you're going to come out of nowhere to hit you about renovation and changing of floor plans. Again, I'm just going through this quickly just to see if there's anything to point out. As you can see, there's this topic, and you've probably run into this before. Anything dealing with building programming and things like that, there's very, very little subject matters out there. So again, I just constantly am coming back to the Ballast book for information on that. So he's got good, in chapter 10, he's got good discussions of these things, which will be questions that are going to come up on the exam for sure. Again, Ballast is dominating the subject matters here. And then here it's a little bit more detailed, because now we're into building systems and structures. So these are going to be good for you for PPD and PDD. These are going to be completely the same type of reading materials of understanding civil, structure, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. There's another book that I think I've got up here. Nope, I didn't put it in here. Are you aware of the book called Heating, Lighting, and what's it called? Heating, Electrical, and Lighting? You can get that. There's a free PDF on that. That's a great book to have for this particular subject matter on mechanical, electrical, and heating. So I'll try and get that. I'll try and get that link to you for free access to that book. That's pretty much it. So that's the PA resources. So I think you could spend a couple hours just looking through this and then going to these different books and chapters. I just wanted to show you this quickly. Has everybody looked at this this document from NCARB? This is a manual?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So I just wanted to show you this as a point of reference to let me zoom in. This is where you need to focus your attention, right? The big one is section 4. So that's going to have the most questions, 35 to 41 questions. 43% of the exam could be on this particular section. So focus a lot on that. Make sure you really grasp that content. And then the next one's going to be the site analysis and programming. So you can see it's somewhat light on codes, but I think your codes and regs are going to come in be invaluable too for PPD and PDD. So it's worth getting these under your belt right now. Environmental contextual conditions are the smallest, but I think most of you should have a good grasp of that since you've done the PJM, right? So you have any issues about orientation, site conditions, things like that? And have you gone through these questions? If you haven't, you should just go through these to give you an idea of the samples, right? Anybody have any trouble with these?
I had an issue with dropping the house in the correct location. That tolerance, in my example, I put it off of the trees, but I got the question wrong because it said that I didn't put it right up against the edge. But in my mind, I was thinking, well, you never put a house within 10 feet of a tree and the tree roots. And so I just set it slightly off, and they gave me that. They gave me wrong.
So in this illustration, then where did you put it?
If you see the dot,
Yeah, right.
that's where I put it. But they were saying it needed to go further back, as in closer to the deciduous trees. So it didn't make any sense to me.
No, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Because this is their correct answer, right?
Yeah. So it didn't make sense.
So they've something's wrong there.
I think when I did the test, also with black spectacles, I did it. I screenshot it so I could send it to you.
Yeah, do that. I can send it on to. So you think black spectacles give you an incorrect answer?
In that case, several things with black spectacles gave me wrong answers, which I found
Annoying.
I don't know why.
Yep. Well, I know they've gotten a number of those, so they're trying to regroup and fix those up. Anything else like on this one?
No.
Okay. Anybody else have any issues with these questions? Or these are the kind of questions which you just can't find any resource book to help you with these things. I've looked. Have anybody found a resource book that goes through these kinds of things? It's pretty much just practice, right? Experience working in a firm and designing buildings, basically working with clients. But there's no resource book that says, okay, well, here's the right way to approach this question. So this is kind of, you just have to really read the question and understand what they're trying to get at and make sure you place things in the right location. And the problem with these is that if you put restrooms in one place and the auditorium in another, you get the question wrong, even though you got all the other ones in the right place. Now I've got some case studies that we can go through that will test you on some of these things, and they're tough. Okay, so you're familiar with that. That's good. Let's see, what do I got here? I'll put this up just to quickly go through it. I told some of you that I went to the ARE community online to see what was going on with PA. So these are some of their comments. I think they're basically repeating what I've said many times, is that each question is worth as many as any other question. So don't spend a lot of time on one question. You reserve that tough question for the very end if you've got time to come back and look at it. But don't kill your exam by spending too much time on them. This is their study activities. I don't know how you guys are doing, but you've got to study for these exams to pass the test. These aren't things you can just regurgitate 2 to 4 hours a week for 4 weeks, then 3 to 4 hours a day for the 2 weeks leading up to the exam. And I should have studied more before the 2 weeks. So here's the books: Ballast, Problem Seeking. I don't think you need to get Problem Seeking. I've got the book, and it's not that valuable. I'll have to see. They're saying that it's good for the section on building efficiency, so I'll take a look at that and see if does anybody know what I'm referring to in the Problem Seeking book? It's by it's a 5th edition by Pena Parcel. It's by HOK, and I think it's a really tedious book myself. But anyway, I'll double check that what they're referring to here for building efficiency. Again, site plan handbook. So we talked about that. In that, they're saying basically you need to really study soils, stormwater management, topography, environmental site assessments in that book. And then I think this is really helpful. The topics to know: soil reports, soil types. I've given that to you. I did a quick breakdown for you on those in the formulas file towards the very end. Also, ARE review manual's got a good thing on that. The fundamentals of building construction is a good section on soils. Site analysis, topography. Does everybody know how to read topos?
Yes.
Okay, good. So you know how to create, what a convex shape would look like, or a convex shape, or a concave, where stormwater would run off, etc. Stormwater management, drainage issues, brownfield remediation, building codes, climate conditions, sun and shading, prevailing winds.
I just sent out an email with acronyms that definitely came up again and again and again.
Okay.
The soil types, GW, I think George W. Bush, and then SW gives all of them. But this came up again and again. It was a really common thing.
Acronyms for soils?
Yeah, so a soil type, it'll say, what is better, GW, GP, GM, GC, and then you have to know, is it sand, is it gravel, what it stands for, because they don't
Wow.
tell you.
I've never seen that before.
Thank you. I just got it.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. I'll put that in my files, my formulas file. Yeah, building density, FARs. Everybody knows that an FAR means if they give you a setback, you don't include the setback in the FAR calculation. It's a full site, buildable site area. Yeah, historic preservation again. Architectural styles. Apparently, this came up, so I'm not sure how much you would need to study about that. I think somebody sent something on the Slack about that, right? Some of the architectural styles of American homes. I think, one question that somebody threw at me, I don't know if it was on a practice exam or not, but it was basically this is an architect wants to design a home in a traditional style for New England, so what style would he use? And then they gave a number of images of traditional American home styles, and it seemed pretty obvious to me, but I assume everybody knows what styles would be in America, in New Mexico or New Hampshire or California. And ADA, accessible paths, ramps, slopes, ramp length, path widths, landings, etc. So those are just things you're going to have to memorize. Site plan design handbook, again, it always keeps coming up as a must-have book for the exam. Now this one says, I would not worry about structures for PA, and I agree. You're not going to be really many questions on structures. That's all coming up in PPD. Okay, here's some student questions we can go through. Should we know the different parts of a geotechnical report or importance, significance for the report? Yeah, you do need to know the different parts of a geotechnical report, I would say. And it's basically basic essential information is in the initial report. So I've listed them right here. Yeah, I'll send this to you so you don't need to write anything down. Here's a link to, again, a basic understanding of geotechnical reports, what an architect would expect to receive from such a report. Everybody knows the difference between macro and micro, I hope. Regional versus site specific. So this is just my answers are all in red. This is a flashcard objective from Black Spectacles. Apparently, independent living facility versus skilled nursing facility. It says they have the exact same definition in the flashcards. So I basically went in and just redefined or just captured what the definitions were for the skilled nursing facilities and assisted living. So just get familiar with those so you don't get tripped up if those come up on the question. Independent living, assisted living, and skilled nursing facilities. Horizontal exit access, definitely you need to know all about these access. So Studio Companion, it's got a good description of this. IBC is all on means of egress, chapter 10. So I'm just horizontal exits, means of egress on the same floor. And I think I'm showing you some examples here. Does everybody know what an exit discharge, what defines an exit discharge? What's the key thing about an exit discharge in its definition? Nothing? Okay.
It has to have exterior access and has to be 2-hour rated.
It has, yep, and it has to exit to a public way.
Yeah.
That's the key thing. It has to exit to a public way.
Directly.
Yeah. There's some exceptions on the horizontal exits. I'm zooming through this quickly because I'll send this to you. But again, these are just some of the things that you should be familiar with. The area rescue is really important. I think this will probably come up on the test. Something about the area of rescue. And notice what's in the exit area of rescue. Okay, there's a evacuation chair. Does everybody know what that is? Any ideas?
The area of refuge?
Yeah, in the what is an evacuation chair?
Is that to transport somebody on a wheelchair down the steps?
Yep,
Like
exactly.
a dolly kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. So a firefighter or even somebody that's mobile can actually put somebody, it doesn't have to be somebody in a wheelchair. It could be somebody that's just really difficult to get, they can't walk down. They're just really too tired or whatever. So you grab this evacuation chair, which is hung on the wall, and move them down. A communication system, I know these things, sometimes these questions come up about what's a communication systems in an area of refuge for. So that's basically there so people can actually communicate with the fire department or rescuers. And of course over here you've got the fire extinguishers, and you've got, they don't show it in here, but what else would be in this building? This was a 6-story structure and above. What's missing in
Once you
here?
have the fire hose, don't they have,
Yeah,
like
the
my building have intermittent fire hoses?
standpipe is missing.
Yeah.
So the standpipe would be in here. Okay, here's just I don't know if this is important to know, but just so you know it now, the area of refuge is not required in facilities equipped with a supervised automatic sprinkler system. So what does that mean? What distinguishes this sprinkler system from supervised versus non-supervised? What do you think that means?
No idea.
It means that somebody can control it. So if it's an automatic sprinkler system that's non-supervised, it's just automatic, it may go on its own or it may not. But if it's supervised, they can override it. They can make sure that it operates. Okay, yeah, areas of refuge, just pointing out where they're located. I think you should read through my answers here. I think these are things you should get familiar with, the areas of refuge. They're not required in a group R2 occupancy. Yeah, we're into stairways and elevator access. This is something that seems to come up. Do you know what the difference between a sleeping unit is and a dwelling unit? Because this is really important, because it could come up on a question where they're saying the sleeping unit versus a dwelling unit.
The dwelling unit has all the living facilities, including like a kitchen or like a stove, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And a sleeping unit would just be a room. Or wait. Okay.
Well, this says a sleeping unit's a room in which people sleep, but it can also include permanent provisions for living, eating, and either sanitation or kitchen facilities, but not both. So such rooms and spaces that are also part of a dwelling unit are not sleeping units. So examples are a hotel, a motel, dormitory, guest room. These are not dwelling units, they're sleeping units. As opposed to, this is important in terms of getting the classification right, or the use in a building of fire separation walls. So guest rooms or guest suites containing permanent provisions for cooking are considered dwelling units. And a dwelling unit is a single unit providing complete independent living facilities for one or more persons, including living, sleeping, eating, cooking, and sanitation. So just try and remember that distinction between the two. Is a certificate of occupancy issued at a specific CA phase, construction administration phase? So here you could just, I don't need to read through this, but basically it's, well, you can read it. This gets back to these issues and questions about soils. So if they ask a question about whether types of organic soil are there, then you need to know some of the options because it could be a multiple choice question. Okay, so here's some of the other ones: peat, muck, compost, mushroom, compost, manure, forest litter. Because I could see that in a multiple choice question where they throw in other types of soils, but they want you to pick 4 of 6 that should be organic soils. This is something that seems to come up somewhat often. Phase 1 and Phase 2 of environmental assessment, ESA. So there's no Phase 3, number 1, and hello. So there's Phase 1 and Phase. Yeah. Hello.
I think that's Furnace.
That's fine.
I think she just joined.
Sorry, I was on mute, so I'm
Okay.
here. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we're just going through some questions from former candidates on the PA exam. So you
Sure,
should know,
thank
you should be familiar with Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the ESA. Okay, so I've just basically identified what they are right now. Phase 1 environmental site assessment includes the visual inspections or records, because they could say what's the difference between Phase 1 and Phase 2, or drag and place, or identify four of the items out of 6 that are in Phase 1 of report. So Phase 1 would include these types of visual inspections or records, and then Phase 2 would be what? What triggers Phase 2? Anybody? That's it's the answer is, it's just a more detailed, now you go into detailed investigation. So Phase 1 is more cursory. You're trying to evaluate it, kind of a due diligence of what's happening on the site. And then if something comes up, then you jump into Phase 2. That's triggered by something is requiring you to move beyond a visual inspection into detailed investigation using chemical analysis, etc. So that's the difference between Phase 1 and Phase 2. A question came up about vapor intrusion, VI. So that's when chemicals in the soil or groundwater, particularly VOCs, migrate to the indoor air above a contaminated site. So they were, I think some of the questions were about how do you mitigate a vapor intrusion in the soil. I think the question was something like that. So first you have to understand, well, what is the vapor intrusion? What's happening here? So it's typically would be a VOC. It could also be radon gas that's coming into the building. So they're talking about a vapor or a gas coming into it. So how would you solve that problem?
Like before construction or during?
Yeah, well, it depends on the question, I guess, but assume it's either one. If it's before your building is erected, and you know you've got a vapor intrusion problem.
I mean, in Cincinnati, we have really high radon levels, so we have to put like so many mil visqueen down, and then it has to be on a, to like a vent pipe with a constant blowing fan in the space, or exhausting out, I should say.
All right, that's right. Yeah, so here I've just soil vapor extraction remediation technology uses vacuum blowers and extraction wells to induce a gas flow through the subsurface, collecting contaminated soil vapor, which is subsequently treated above ground. If it's radon, like you said, basically you're doing that. You're exactly right. I mean, you basically have to put in pipes, capture the radon as it leaves the soil or rock, and comes into pipes, and then you evacuate those the radon through pipes vertically out of
Mhm.
the building, and it has to be a constant fan.
Yep.
We have that in our house in Colorado. It's constant. It's on 24 hours a day because the radon level is quite high. Does anybody know what the radon level for mitigation is? What's that level where you need to do mitigation? Picocuries per liter. Anybody know? I don't think that'd be on the test, but I'm just curious.
I hardly know what the radon is.
You don't know what radon is?
I mean, I know it's something that we're.
It's a natural gas that is released by the earth, and it's usually in climates or locations where there's large granite deposits. So that's usually New England, Colorado, Cincinnati. And
Yeah, because of the rivers eroded so much.
so what you do is you go in and you put in a radon testing kit, which costs like $15. You can buy it at Menards or Home Depot, and if you get a reading back that's over 4 picocuries per liter, then you need to do some mitigation. You need to evacuate that gas because over time it can cause cancer. Anyway,
I'm sorry, Christoph, you said something about rivers? What?
Just the fact that the Ohio River is, Cincinnati is pretty low compared to the relative area around Ohio. That's, in a different watershed. So the city of Cincinnati is lower, so we're closer to the different, like not necessarily granite. It's mostly limestone here. But yeah, we just have this big pocket of radon in southwest Ohio, northern Kentucky.
Is it odorless?
yes,
I believe so.
it is odorless. It's yeah, you should know about radon for sure. I mean, if you can't read about it in the sections we've got here or in the books, you should check it on. Just Google it and get familiar with radon. The difference between ADA and ANSI, does one trump the other? Anybody have any ideas? Well, what is ADA and what's the difference between ADA and ANSI?
American Disabilities Act?
It's an act, not a code.
Yeah.
Right. ADA is a standard. It's for the disabled, whereas ANSI is standards for materials and products and technologies. And one doesn't trump the other. That was an interesting question, but be familiar with what those two are, because they could use those acronyms and throw at you. Typical Gantt chart construction schedule includes calendar days, but is construction actually occurring on the weekends? So what do you think?
Our contractors work on the weekends.
But what is the Gantt chart? Does the Gantt chart consider weekends, or does it just include calendar days?
I think Gantt chart's calendar days.
Right. In the trade, pretty much construction trades use calendar days, even though people do work on weekends, because they got to meet deadlines, or they've got it. But they do. The difficulty is they got to pay overtime, typically, right? And that cuts into their profit. And labor unions also restrict weekend work. So anything, it's just if something comes up about calendar days, that's what everybody goes by is calendar days, not weekends.
When you're saying calendar days, you just mean Monday through Friday.
Correct.
Okay.
So on permit process, when does this actually occur on projects and by whom? So these are just some links you can go to on the permit process and when it occurs and how it occurs. But I think I've just given some quick graphics here. Obviously, you can get rejected, right? Then you got to go back and amend it, adapt it, modify it, then go back for approval. Then it goes on into inspections. So it's a pretty simple, straightforward process. Okay, here's the link I think I was referring to. So here's a free link to this Secretary of Interior Standards for Treatment of Historic Properties. with guidelines. I think what's important here is it's a big book, so you don't need to read the whole thing. What's important are these 4 things right here. So if you get this, take this link, then go to these pages and just get familiar with them. I don't think you need to read through all of them, but just know that there are 4 stages that the Department of Interior has created for standards for treating historic properties: preservation, rehabilitation, restoration, and reconstruction. And here's the difference. This typically would be a drag and place type of a question, where they want you to address the definition of these 4 different categories of preservation. It kind of makes sense when you read these through, right? Or would any of these kind of stump you between rehabilitation and restoration? Are you guys reading it?
Yes.
Okay, good. I don't know.
Right.
'Cause, yeah, go ahead.
The multiple tests on this was definitely in the practice exams with black spectacles, and every single one of them. But it makes sense. I mean, I don't have an issue with it. Sometimes
Yeah.
rehabilitation can be a little confusing.
Yeah, I think it's, once you read these definitions and it sinks in, I think it makes sense, right?
Mhm.
Of why one's least historically accurate than the other. And it totally makes sense. If any of you've done restoration work, historic preservation work on buildings, I don't know if you've ever used these terms, but these are coming from the Secretary of Interior. Okay, ramps. Again, you just need to know about this stuff, right? And I don't think they're going to trick you, but somebody told me that they once had a question where it said, excluding the landing at the front and the end, what would be the distance of a ramp if you need to go 18 inches tall? So that meant you had to deduct the 60 inches at the end, right? Or you just didn't include it. But typically what the question should be, what's the total length? Because they want you to know that you've got to add 60 inches at the front and 60 inches at the end and 60 inches in the middle.
One of the questions was, what is the slope in the short direction, like the 5 foot wide?
What's the slope in the 5 foot? You mean the 60 inches?
Yeah, because it's not flat. They want to know what is the slope with, that goes, from the narrowest part. So if it's a 1 to 12 going up or 1 to 20, what is the slope in the other direction, in the ramp? And there is a slope. And I never knew that before either until I got that question wrong.
Is
Wait
that
a
what they
minute.
refer to as the cross slope? I remember a question about
Yeah, I
that.
mean, the landings are always flat.
Yeah, but they were saying that because of, I thought about this, if it's raining or with snow, it isn't perfectly flat.
Oh, okay, well, I think I know what you're talking about. The cross slope of a ramp
Yeah.
is 1 to 48,
Mm-hmm.
right here.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's what you're referring to. But I also note here that don't get that confused with the cross slope of a curb ramp, because that's 1 to 10. I think somebody came up with that question, right? Was that from your group or if it was another group? They got it wrong
I
because
think
they thought
yeah.
it was 1 to 50 or 1 to. Anyway,
Yeah.
It's 1 to 48 for a ramp run, and it's a curb ramp. It's 1 to 10. Yeah, so these are the basic things you need to know about the ramps right here, all in red. This is important. A rise of 6 inches requires handrails. These are just memorization things, unless you need to brain dump these. But these are things you just need to memorize. Okay, this thing on structural questions, again, what I'm hearing and learning is that there's very, very little, if any, questions on structure. But you might as well get familiar with these. Again, if you because they're going to be on PPD and PDD. So again, just these are some links, and you can see them in my file, my formulas file as well. Tributary areas. This is equations. Our these formulas. Again, this isn't something I don't think you need to focus on. But again, I'm just listing where you can find this information on the formulas. Again, Ballast has got really good examples of these calcs, but they go into way too much detail. So I wouldn't focus on those. Okay, let's see what this is. Okay, here we go, some questions. A client seeks zero net energy building certification. Which zero net energy building certification approach should the architect consider? So he's asked to design a remodel of an existing historic building located adjacent to multiple historic buildings. So historic preservation codes apply. Orientation of the building face north with small traditional windows on all sides. 10-12 pitch slate roof with dormers, brick walls, no insulation, tall old deciduous trees lining both north and south. Buildings share common walls on east and west sides. So is everybody familiar with the zero net energy building classifications are? They're listed right here.
Yeah, we had those on
A, B, C, and
CE.
D. Okay, you had those. So which of these would the architect choose? Select two. Given the
I think somebody
conditions that were mentioned up above.
C and D.
Agree.
Okay. I got to go back to this. Yep. C and D is correct. Does everybody understand that?
I had this question in my CE course. CE.
Did you get it right?
I hope so. I wouldn't know. They don't tell you.
I know. Okay, here's one. Projects located on slopes in Southern California. The program consists of a resort, spa, and wellness center. Historically, the region was home to several Native American tribes. Then mining and logging. What are the environmental constraints the architect would evaluate? Choose 4. Okay, well, there's some clues here, right? Slopes would mean what? It's probably not going to be a brownfield or a wetland, right? It's probably not going to be a wetland if it's a slope. Well, what do we know about the mountains of Southern California in terms of fire? That's a big constraint. Paleontology, home to Native American tribes.
That's possible.
Mining and logging, would that maybe be a clue to brownfields? So let's just pick 2 that you throw out. Which of the 2 do you throw out? Wetlands?
I think climate change is way too big to control. That's a much bigger topic.
That's a valid argument.
So you're going to throw out wetlands and climate change?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
So brownfield climate change is correct. Impact should include temperature shifts, snow, rainfall frequency. Have any of you been in Southern California mountains? They've had a huge decrease in snow, so their ski slopes are really suffering. Their lakes are drying up, so that's impacting the economy. Loss of biodiversity is definitely a problem. The reason why they've got forest fires is because the trees are diseased, so they're dead. So that's probably why climate change is in there. So they threw out wetlands and no, what they throw out?
Paleontology, yeah.
Yeah,
They kept paleontology.
Oh, they said environmental constraints. So
Oh, yeah.
paleontology, environmental.
that makes sense.
That's right. That's not an environmental constraint. Yeah, good catch. See, that's where you get thrown, right? You got to read the question. The environmental constraint is not a paleontology would not be an environmental constraint. Okay. Client's objective is to integrate sustainability principles. Architect assembles key sustainability principles to guide the design. What guidelines constitute sustainability principles? Choose 4. You want me to blow this up some more?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we could get rid of 3, right? Why would we want to
Two.
minimize?
Get rid of 2.
2,
Yes, it's
it
2.
makes sense. You'd rather use existing buildings. It is a sustainable principle.
Yeah, you don't want to build on greenfields if you can
I
avoid.
think she was saying eliminate 2.
No, I'm saying eliminate 2 because you said eliminate 3. I didn't know if you meant 3 topics or the third option.
No, I'm sorry. I mean minimize recycling. You want to maximize recycling, so that would
Yes. Okay.
be eliminated.
Okay, so 3's out.
And 2 would make sense because you'd rather develop an existing building or a brownfield site and leave a virgin greenfield site alone.
That's right.
I think I would take out 6 because why would you minimize the use
Correct.
of runoff water? You'd
Yeah.
kind of want to reuse it.
Maximize.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay, so 3 and 6 are out.
Yeah.
Wrong.
But this doesn't make sense.
Minimizing solid waste is a good principle, but should not be a direct result of building location and site design.
But 3 is incorrect.
No, it's saying you're right. Maximize, not minimize, because the answer was minimize.
Okay. Oh,
So
okay.
they're saying maximize. Yeah, designed to minimize the use and runoff of water. So designed to minimize runoff of water. That's correct, right? Because you don't want erosion.
Could you go back to the question? The first. I think. Oh, now I understand. Okay, got it. Never mind. Read it wrong.
Yeah, these are things that kind of make you scratch your head. So you have to think of the best answer, right? That makes sense. Even though minimizing solid waste is a good sustainability principle, it's not the best of these 6 choices if you only can pick 4. I think this runoff is regarding erosion.
Yeah. Using those things that block
This comes from Site Plan and Design Handbook.
It kind of reads like, yes, we have no bananas, though.
This is requiring you to know about BEAS, the life cycle assessment model, and its 10 impacts. Choose 4. So if you don't know what that is, then so you're going to have to use your best guess. It's elimination of 2 of them. It's a life cycle assessment model. So think about that, life cycle assessment.
What's eutrophication?
No idea. So that must be correct.
I think we'll probably find out when we get to the answer. But
Just select. I would go with 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Well,
If I had to guess.
If the question is about life cycle of material, what is human toxicity and pervious surfaces have to do with anything?
well, pervious surface is a material.
Yeah, you're right, but
well, look at the question again. Choosing a green building material.
So it's a building. Well, pervious
So
surface wouldn't be on your building.
a material
oh,
like
you're right. So then pervious matters, but stormwater runoffs don't.
so a green building material could be toxic paint, right? Or something like that. So that could be human toxicity.
Great, because human toxicity, like if you had formaldehyde in a product, you would want to minimize. That's because it's toxic to humans.
And then I'm looking at this thing about it involves energy use. So that, I mean, I'm not sure what energy use means for stormwater or pervious pavement. So I don't know. This is a tough one.
Yeah,
What's building materials? I'll
I'm
take the
glad I'm not
pervious
taking this test.
Thanks. That's great.
I think 2 and 4 are for sure included. Maybe pervious
I think-
surfaces apply to everything as well, so that could be 6 too. There's
Well, I'm also
3.
thinking, now that I read it, it says green building material. I mean, the pervious surface is not necessarily on your building. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I'm reading
Yeah,
it
that's
correctly.
I think that's good logic.
I just cheated. I looked up what eutrophication potential.
What is eutrophication?
It says excessive richness of nutrients in a lake or other body of water, frequently due to runoff of the land, which causes a dense growth of plant life and death of animal life from lack of oxygen. So, like in Florida, we're having it with the algae blooms.
Mhm.
With
So
the
that, like, if you
But
have
then it's
toxic
included.
material,
That one means it's included because it certainly has environmental impact.
but he was talking about stormwater runoff, so does it mean stormwater runoff would be included too?
I think that's one that is not included because you have to eliminate one for sure, and that's one.
So I don't know if this means like with landscape architecture, if you're fertilizing with the runoff, but is that a building material?
I just think that the context of the question is about life cycle of material, and somehow it's about the material. And water runoffs is not about a material. It's still part of sustainability, but it's not a material, I think.
Well, let's see what the 10 impacts are. No B's. 2, 3, 4, 5 is correct.
Yeah.
That was good. Good evaluation. You guys got that right. For those who didn't know anything about it, you got it right. I think, right?
Yep.
So here's the 10. Wow. Well, at least you've tested your analytical skills and succeeded.
Our
The
guessing
entire
skills.
test is always analytical for me. None of the questions I knew in my last test.
Say that again?
Almost all of CE was analytical for me.
Oh, really?
It was all about finding the dumbest answer and taking it out.
Well, then it sounds like you must have done really well.
Well, I'm just saying, I think that's looking for you to eliminate if you don't know.
Yeah, and they're going to more and more of these analytical questions are going to arise, is what I'm understanding. Especially they're more convoluted.
Yeah.
So be prepared. Evaluation of pipe materials. This is definitely something that I think you could show up. Key attributes of pipe materials. Okay, this is drag in place. So what would be? How do you want to do this? What's ABS?
ABS is plastic.
It's a plastic, right? Some sort of plastic, toxic plastic.
Yeah, but so is PVC
Yeah.
and HDPE.
I know. Yeah, I know. I was gonna make a joke, but I'm not going to.
Oh, well, maybe go to the easiest ones. Go to
Cast iron.
cast iron or cast concrete or
Acidic
virtuous clay.
castrate is a heavy, expensive to install, durable.
Is it lightweight?
No.
Nope.
Well,
I think
cast
cast
iron
iron is
could
the
be
fourth
durable.
one, right?
High cost due to weight, low thermal expansion, and durable, I would imagine that's cast iron.
Mm-hmm.
Higher labor cost, no, that's concrete.
It could be primarily for waste and stormwater piping.
Isn't that cast iron? I feel like every
But
time I hear a problem about stormwater has to do with the cast iron pipes corroding.
What is? I'm sorry.
cast iron doesn't corrode that way, but I think
No?
it has a thermal expansion issue.
We're supposed to pick one.
No,
No,
don't
match.
connect
We have
the
to match.
answer. And
Oh, wow, I'm way off.
I think vitrified clay is the use for decades.
so cast iron primary
Yeah.
for waste and stormwater piping expensive. That's the one I would put out of our misery.
So would you say PVC is the lowest cost?
Yes,
Yes.
I would say yes.
No, it's not easily recyclable. Well, isn't some PVC recyclable?
I don't know.
Isn't some like exterior trims like, is AZEK made out of PVC or is it something else?
AZAC is definitely plastic.
Well, what does HDPE stand for?
High density polyethylene.
Ethylene.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So is that high strength? Would that mean high density mean high strength?
I think so.
Yeah. So ABS plastic must be the more easily recyclable item.
Yeah, I do see a lot of, if you drive around, you'll see a lot of concrete pipes, it says required by many states. I'm wondering if that would be concrete, expensive to install,
Mhm.
but certainly it's heavy. The resistance to wear, durable. I don't know, a durable, low thermal expansion coefficient, higher labor costs due to weight. Well, you want to bite the bullet and feel the pain?
We failed this question.
Huh, okay.
Expensive.
So is ABS the black pipe then that's not cast iron?
That's right. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
that one corrodes a lot, doesn't it?
So vitrified clay is like what the Romans used, or
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I still use vitrified clay in my house on all the homes I design. I'm teasing. I'm a traditionalist. I want to use clay, and it's very green and sustainable.
There's
Okay.
a project on the Ohio River down here, a nuclear facility where they use vitrified clay.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, and the bitumen that they use to seal the clay pipes. It was made to transport the cleaning TCE, like liquid material that they sprayed on trucks after they were in the plant to remove the radiation. And the radiation ate through the bitumen and leaked into the groundwater, and it's going towards the Ohio River right now.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Great.
I don't know who messed that up, but
That was probably me since I specify clay. Well, some of you got this right. I mean, you did say that PVC doesn't recycle well, so that's right. So that eliminated that, moved that down to HDPE. Yeah, these are tricky, but I think you're going to run into these drag and place questions regarding materials. That's the book, Fundamentals of Building Construction. That's a great book for understanding materials. This is also in site planning and design.
Oh, HDPE pipe. Okay, now I see it. It's got the ribbing on it, usually.
Okay, I think I'll give anybody some champagne if you can answer this one correctly. Does everybody know about fly ash?
Yeah,
Okay. Oh, good.
a little bit.
You should
I've
probably
used
get this
like
right then.
materials made out of fly ash, like trim.
Mm-hmm. So, what would be the percentage of fly ash that you would want to use in concrete mixture? This is the kind of question, if you don't know the answer, you got to just really pick, right, and move on.
Well, I would eliminate the 45 to 50%, no?
Yep.
That's just way
It's
too
a bit
much.
high, yeah.
And even the 30, 45.
I agree.
Okay, we're down to 1 and 2. That's great.
So what does fly ash do? And let's go from there.
I think it's number 2.
I'm gonna go with 2 because I think 1 might be too low.
Yeah.
Oh,
If it needs to do something.
all right.
Yep,
So
you're
I
right.
have to send some champagne to 2 of you.
Two.
Good job. Good way to eliminate.
And what does fly ash do again? I forgot. It's elasticity or?
No, it's a good way to use residual
It's like
byproduct. It's like recycling material, so it's really good sustainably.
Okay.
It's also very low cost. Like you can get it for like to do your exterior eaves.
But in the concrete mix, what is it replacing that at that 15 to 30%? That's pretty high.
Just like, I think like an aggregate, but it makes kind of sense. Like, why even bother with 5%? It's not even worth your time.
Yeah.
I think the 5% number would be like an additive. That's the way I've always looked at it, based on like temperature or some other type of strength requirement.
Well, but the question was about how to get rid of some material. Then I don't know if I would have done it readily at 15%, because it's about how to just recycle some fly ash you have residual. But
Yeah,
I guess
it says in a fly ash Portland cement mixture. So you need at least 15 to 30% of fly ash to add to that. So now you know when that question comes up. Drag and place. Oh, here we go. Sleeping purposes.
R1 is definitely a motel.
What kind of motel? Non-transient or transient or both?
I think it's both.
No. I don't think so. Because if it's non-transient, that's almost like a boarding house, right?
Non-transient might be the same category as like apartment building.
That's right. Because people basically they're just renting the space in that room.
But then maybe R1 is the motels, transient, and the vacation timeshare properties because you don't live at either one. I don't know. I don't know this one.
This is a really good drag and place because it's helping you now zero in on R1, R2, R3 uses.
Yeah, it is good. So R1 is the most restrictive, right? The one that is for maximum number of people in an environment they don't know their exit signs, kind of thing, like as opposed to an apartment building. So if R1 is the most restrictive, then I would take motel transient as R1. I would take, even apartment buildings could be R1.
I think it's still gonna cover it.
Yeah, so R1 is motel transient, non-transient, and apartments. And then R2 might be the boarding houses, and R3 might be buildings that do not contain more than 2 dwelling units. A boarding house with 10 or fewer occupants. Am I thinking about strictness?
I think the code changes when based on the occupancy though. So for the boarding houses, they might not be in the same category.
So when I was studying, R3 is for like a nursing home. R2 is residential, and R1 is hotel. So I had to guess. I'm gonna still put transient with R1. Apartments is R2. I don't know about vacation timeshare properties.
The boarding house could be like a nursing home, I guess.
Oh, it's definitely. I mean, boarding houses have come out of favor in the United States for probably since World War II. Such an odd, maybe in university towns, but
But if they're transient, that means nobody's staying there for a long period of time.
That's right.
I don't know, that kind of seems more like a motel.
So you think transients should all stay together
well, I don't want to.
under R1?
Because what would be the difference between a boarding house and a motel if they're both transient? I mean, aren't they essentially the same thing?
More than 10 occupancy.
or
more
if
than-
with, or there's one with fewer than 10 or fewer occupants. But maybe the one with more than 10, wouldn't that be very similar to a motel?
I'm surprised nobody's gone to IBC code right now. Been looking this up.
Well, we were trying to be honest about it.
We might not have it as an option during our exam.
It could be in the case. This is why I'd say go to the case studies and see if you've got the class IBC chapter 3 in there, use and classifications, and you could get this answer. Let's see what they've done to you.
IBC.
Okay, boarding and transient.
So group three is residential properties, right?
Yeah, like a house.
Like a single family
I
home.
would have gotten half of that right. Well, R3 is occupancies with less than 10 people. Both are more than 2. Oh, do not contain more than 2, and a boarding house less than 10.
So it's like
R2 categorize motel, apartments, and vacation timeshare. And I'm trying to understand what the difference between R1 and 2 actually is.
well, R1, it looks like it's, maybe you're only there for a week or so. Whereas in R2, maybe it's like temporary but long term.
Yeah,
like maybe at a motel for a month.
maybe the way
Yeah,
to think about it is more like a rental property. So you're renting the space in the motel. In R2, you're renting.
Actually, restrictive. It has people who transient means they don't know their way around the building. It means that, they're there for 3 nights. They're not familiar with their exits and stairs and stuff. So it's the most restrictive.
And then you can look at it as like R3 is more
No,
of a permanent type of thing.
Well, I think transient means R1 is basically you're staying there short term.
Right, but in terms of
So R2.
when it's transient,
I think
you
it's
don't know the
like-
exit sign. That's more restrictive. Is it?
Look, you have to go to Beirut for a month, and you're going to stay in the same place, and it's got a kitchen in it. It's got a kitchen in it.
So that would be
Well,
R2.
New York, for example, if you stay somewhere less than 30 days, it's a hotel. It's more than 30, it's already in a different category. So what I'm saying is that if this looks like all the ones where you would be familiar, an apartment building, in a motel that's non-transient, and vacation timeshares, it looks like there are two because they're they don't. It's less. The means of egress paths, all that is a little bit different than R1. I think.
Well, I think we can either pull up IBC code and
So
look at it and see if there's
I'm looking at
more.
I'm looking at the Ching book reference, and
Mhm.
it kind of summarizes it in a way that makes sense. Group R, it's obviously transient, but it says sleeping in the rooms for 30 days or less. R2, it's occupants that are permanent, sleeping in buildings containing more than 2 dwelling units for more than 30 days. And group 3, it's permanent occupants that don't meet the criteria of R1 or R2. So that's kind of everything else.
And I'm saying that if you stay less than 30 days, the codes become more stringent if you're less than 30 days. In other words, they're going to want you to assume that people don't know where their way around in an emergency, and the exit sign location, everything is a little different than those who become familiar over time.
I'm not sure that's true. I think your fire codes, building codes relate to all buildings, regardless of classification type. In this sense, I mean, you still have what you're saying is that they would not have a fire egress light, the emergency light, in say
No, I read somewhere
R2?
or I studied somewhere that when you're doing R1, they're assuming a lot, sort of a non-familiarity of environment affects.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I would have to go to IBC to see really what the difference between R1 and R2 would be in terms of specifics of its,
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, fire separations all relate to these values, right? But if you look at the tables, I think R is always the same in terms of fire separation walls. I'm trying to think if you have a fire, the emergency fire lights in rooms that turn on in hallways, if those exist in R2s, they wouldn't exist in R1s, but would they also exist in R2s? I think they would. I think they're required by law as well. I'm just trying to sort your logic out to see if there's actually more stringent requirements.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm sure I'm not fully.
Well, the definition that was given, you're saying in Ching, is that it's 30 days or less?
For
R1.
R1, yes, correct. Yes, and they basically they have a little calendar that says that's kind of the giveaway.
So a bed and breakfast or an Airbnb, for example, that you're staying more than a month, that depends, right? I mean, if some guests are staying more than a month in an Airbnb,
right? But it has to have
there-
more than 2 dwelling units in order for it to move to
okay.
R2. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So
And if you have 100 people in one building that you want to call bed and breakfast, I don't think that applies. I think that there's a unit count that's minimum, like 10, I think.
So we're saying an Airbnb is an R1,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
Yes.
Airbnb house.
Because I've stayed in Airbnbs in Detroit for 3 months.
Well, I know because I rent my house. I'm not R1. and I know that it's, and the taxes change. It's for tax purposes. The 30 days also is for tax purposes, I mean. But when you qualify as a hotel, automatically, when you're over 30, you could be, other rules can apply to you then, for safety and fire and so on.
So you're an R2,
I think so.
right? Because you're renting the home. Buildings that do not contain more than 2 dwelling units. So that's a single family house, even though you're renting
That's
it.
actually R3. I'm an R3.
So you're an R3.
Yes. that's
An
it.
Airbnb, if it's a single family house, but it's renting to guests for more than 30 days, would still be an R3. Right?
As long as there's 10 or fewer occupants.
Yes.
So that would be they would be an R3.
Mhm.
Okay, so we just moved Airbnbs down to R3 from R1.
So now we understand.
If it's an Airbnb in a single family home, what if it's an Airbnb in a multiple dwelling? Then it goes into the next one, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, I've stayed in Airbnbs in Detroit also that were in big units, big multifamily units. So I guess that would be an R2 because they were mostly apartments. But I only stayed there for one night. I don't know. I'm a problem. I create all kinds of problems with these classifications.
Road.
Sounds like you're creating an R4.
That's right. This is the Paul Bierman Lytle classification group.
Okay. IBC class request. Materials. Wow, jeez.
Crikey, I would never know that.
Ooh.
You're going to know it after this test.
Sprinkler or
All right. Have you ever looked at the IBC classes?
yes, but not recently. One's for oil.
What the class finish? What is the class finish of the corridor or the stairway? I don't know if I understand the question. Interior exits. Interior exit stairways. What's the class finish?
Class has to do with the flammability.
Mm.
Fire.
Yeah.
Fire rating.
So you got to know
So
what.
if they're requiring it to be sprinkled, then it has a higher flammability or flame spread.
That's right.
So it's either on one of those spectrums, either A or D.
Table 803.9, interior wall and ceiling finish requirements for occupancy, page 199.
This is IBC.
Yep, IBC.
I'm looking at it.
You see table 803? Let me see if I can pull it up quickly here. Class 3. I've got it right here. I'll see if I can bring it up. Class A is flame spread index, smoke developed index. It gives you an index, flame spread index. So it's flame A. They give a class A, B, and C. I don't see a class D. Okay, so let me see if I can show this to you somehow. You don't see anything, right?
Mm-mm.
Okay, let's see if I can bring it up. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So what was the, did they give us a occupancy or not? They didn't.
No, but it
R3.
says exit stairways.
Oh, they
It
said,
said
yeah, it says R3. So
Oh, yeah.
R3 is, where's R3? Right down here. C, 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 all the way across. Class C.
So that's 803.11.
Yeah, 803.11. Let's see, I can What was it, 809 they said?
You had 803.9 originally listed.
Yeah, see, here's the code, 803.9. Oh, there isn't one. That's probably from 2012. This is 2015.
Okay.
So anyway, so here's the classification on the left, and then the C's, and then it's talking about, if I blow this up some more for you, Class C is interior finish material shall be permitted for wainscoting or paneling of not more than 1,000 square feet. Yeah, they really don't give much definition except for the flame spread.
By the way, which IBC should I download?
2015.
You guys like the illustrated one?
Well, if you're using Qing, I'm not sure what Qing uses. By the way, I've got Qing's newest book, which is the 6th edition. So I think that's based on 2015. So if you've got the 4th edition, it may be old.
I have the 6th edition because I just downloaded it from Apple Books, and it actually says 2018 International Building Code on the cover.
And now we know that Class D was a fake answer.
Yeah, I don't think if you have never heard of it, you should answer it.
Yeah, you're right. The 6th edition is 2018 code. So now that totally throws you off, right?
Yeah.
I think NCARB's going with 2015.
I'm gonna buy a download or something. Which one do you all suggest?
Well, I get to 2018.
Illustrated or not?
Illustrated.
It helps.
They have it here. It's very nice. 20.
Now, the other one, the much that I mentioned before, I think you got online, Farnaz, is the new one that's out, 2015 IBC code and commentary. And everybody's recommending that book now.
Okay.
Because the commentary is part 1 and part 2.
Yeah,
Let
I
me
got it.
just show you what it looks like here. Can you see that?
It's a download, right?
How come you can't see me?
It's black. So
Oh,
now
I
see it.
I could do a download, but so it comes separate from the actual book.
Yeah, it's two big fat books with commentary. So what I'm hearing is really good about these books with commentary is that they go into great detail and explain the code much better. Then that's why it's called with commentary. But it is 2015. Now Qing, which is what we just talked about, this new one, 6th edition, is using 2018 code.
Okay, let me write that down.
So my guess is that everybody should be using 2018, but NCARB is not, to my knowledge. I think it's still using 2015.
So reading the Qing book, and I have it digitally from Apple Books. What they did is they have a paragraph that's blue, or I guess in blue text it says what's different from the 2018 code to the 2015. So it does give you a little bit of insight as to things that are slightly different.
Mm-hmm. I thought you had to leave. I thought you had to leave, Jorge. Is your daughter not cutting? She's
11.
Not cutting her.
11.
Oh, 11.
Yeah.
11 Central Standard Time.
Yeah. Sorry. 11
Yeah.
local time.
I was wondering to see if you're headless right now or not.
Not yet. I got 23 minutes left.
Yeah, you haven't looked behind her shoulder. She's with a knife. Okay, where were we?
What was the name of the Qing text again?
The Illustrated Handbook. It's in the ARE5 handbook listed as well.
Where did you find the book list? Because I'm always lost with this list.
Building Codes Illustrate, a guide to understanding the 2015 International Building Code.
I mean, where is the list you're looking at?
Oh, on the ARA 5 handbook.
Oh, the handbooks list of books.
It has the whole list of all the books,
That's
and
it.
including the ones he mentioned.
Now, remember, I sent you that in my thing. I sent you the free links to IRC code and the IGCC code and energy code. So you should download those. So you've got those.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay, here's a question for you. Using the graphic below, what is a rainfall in inches for a site located in southeastern Gulf Coast of Louisiana? I got to zoom out. Nope,
Read the
can you-
question again, please.
Can you see that? The question is, using the graphic, what is the rainfall in inches for a site located in southeastern Gulf Coast of Louisiana? So
Southeast.
I can zoom into South Carolina.
So first I need to
Louisiana
find
here.
Louisiana.
Well, Louisiana's way on the bottom right.
It's the boot.
Yep.
Okay, let me zoom into Louisiana and see if you can see anything there.
I'm supposed to know where Louisiana is?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm
You don't know where
thinking. Oh,
Louisiana
boy.
is?
I'm in
I
trouble.
sure don't.
You don't know where Louisiana is? Oh my goodness.
Nope.
Okay, let's start
It's
with
missed in there.
let's
It's
start
understandable.
let's start with the states. So what is this state right here?
Minnesota.
What's this state right here?
That's where Paul is.
That's where I am. That's Minnesota.
One is it? Just outline it with your pen, please.
No, it's not. It's Minnesota.
This is Minnesota right here.
God.
Okay, where is what's the state right right above Louisiana? What's the state?
Arkansas.
Okay, great. What's the state to the left of Louisiana?
Texas.
Texas. That
All right.
looks like
What's the
Texas.
state right here?
Ohio.
It's Indiana.
No, that's Indiana.
Indiana.
That's
Indiana.
Ohio.
That's Indiana. What's this state?
That's a mitten.
Michigan.
Okay. So now you're oriented. Now you know where you are in the U.S.
I knew all of them except Louisiana.
I'm sorry. I didn't know any of them.
It's the only one that looks like a boot.
So the Mississippi is the cutoff there.
So Farnaz,
Just
Farnaz, you were thrown off
West.
because you're thrown off because the eastern states were washed out by sea level rise. That's the so now Louisiana's taking the place of Florida. It's got beach coast frontage all along here now. Okay, so anyway, the question was southeastern Louisiana. What would be the rainfall based on this graph?
475.
4.75 inches?
Correct
Or
answer
greater.
is 4.75 inches.
Yeah.
So that's asking you to look at a chart and be able to read it. So
I
some of
know
you,
the map of the United States. I would have failed that.
really?
I wouldn't have known where Louisiana is, for God's sakes. I know East Coast, West Coast, the middle is a blur.
Okay, well you need to get a glass. You need to get a glass of wine and sit down and study the geography of
The
US.
map.
Only 4 states I really know.
Put a map of the U.S. up on your refrigerator.
I would agree that unless, I mean, that map's not terribly great, but Michigan is pretty straightforward. And once you know that, you can work it out.
Louisiana
you
is
know,
near the boat. Yeah, I
well,
remember
I
that
mean,
because it's next to Texas.
You definitely know Texas, right?
Yeah. it's-
Yeah, I know.
And then
Not really.
Louisiana's out. Now I give you credit. If anything above, where's Missouri?
I mean,
Nobody knows.
I would
It's
know
right
East
above
Coast.
Arkansas.
It's right above Arkansas. It's right here is Missouri.
Where's where the 4 states come together?
It's in Arkansas.
That's New
That's
Mexico.
west.
It's New Mexico, Colorado,
Oh,
Where is
Uh,
it?
Oklahoma. This is Colorado right here. So it's the 4 corners are right here.
Ah,
oh,
This is Oklahoma, New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah. They all come together in one corner. See, I travel the United States. I don't stick around and like you guys do and never leave the state. Okay, ADA. See how well you are in ADA. Yeah, this is a really good question because this involves registration of historic places. So it's a historic preservation issue. Museum building ADA requires access for wheelchairs to the second floor. So what do the requirements state? Choose one.
I'm just going to guess. 1 and 2 are really similar, and it would seem that no exceptions is extreme. And again, it's going for historic, while number 4 seems to allow flexibility, and we're dealing with. So, as an example, if it's the Lincoln Memorial, you're not going to put in a lift. You don't have to. So I'm going to go with 4.
I'm thinking 4 because my building is not ADA accessible at my job, but it's a very old building, so we get the exception, but we
So are
don't
you?
have to be.
So that's curious. So the Lincoln Memorial does not have access for handicapped people?
I don't know. I'm just guessing, but I'm sure when they first built it, it did not.
No, I think it does have an elevator.
Yeah. I'm sure it is now with more memorials like the obelisk and all the different things. But within that idea is that you wouldn't put in an ADA ramp that would go back and forth. You know, if you could put in an underground entrance and then rebuild it, but if it's considered.
But the only thing is though, because it's a public building, I feel like sometimes they might be forced, because it's a public building, they might be forced to put in something that is ADA accessible.
I think.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think it leads towards number 3.
Yeah, I think 3 makes the most sense because I feel like the whole public factor to me
number
feels
2?
like you have to.
2
Well,
says alternate access can be considered.
but that's true.
I think 2 is the most likely that it's not about cost. ADA they can sue you even if it's expensive. It doesn't matter.
Well, then what's the difference between 2 and?
And I guess I never thought of that. That's true.
I think 3 is about money, and money does not matter to this issue. Historic, I think, is fine, except nonprofit doesn't matter to this issue.
That's true.
It's going to be 2. It's either they're going to be stringent or they're going to work with you, but I think they work with you. You can come up with alternatives.
Okay, you ready for the disappointment?
No, I've had enough.
Yay! It's 2.
2 is correct.
Okay.
So, as it states in the code, if it is determined that it is not feasible to provide physical access to a historic property that is a place of public accommodation in a manner that will not threaten or destroy the historic significance of buildings or facility, alternative methods of access shall be provided.
That could be you build a tower on the left with a ramp in it.
Or an elevator outside the building
Yeah,
that
literally,
connects.
they'll make you do 100 other things, but
So 1 is no exceptions is correct.
no
Yeah.
exception is not correct. Why?
No, number 2 is correct.
No, I know. I'm just saying that they're saying that no exceptions would have been a trigger, like something that would have alerted you that's not an option.
Right.
Right, that it's so restrictive that you would have to tear a historic building down for it.
Yeah, alternative methods of access shall be provided. So that's the key word. Alternative methods shall be provided. So this bottom one, the historic nonprofit organizations can appeal the ADA, but because it's a public museum, it must comply with ADA code. So They just have to come up with an alternative solution to access. Makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Want to be able to get into Lincoln Memorial?
Oh, I don't know. You just have to memorize this.
I have to guess.
Um,
Oh.
300. It's too small.
When they say selling space, they mean the entire facility?
My guess is that there's like probably like per square footage you have to have X amount of ADA accessible aisles, but you'd have to probably already know that square footage, like vector
Yeah,
formula.
this is a tough one. You just have to know the answer. Right, there's no other clue to this other than memorization.
I'm gonna go with 2,000. Oh, I was too low.
It's 5,000 square feet, under 5,000.
Under 5,000.
So that's interesting to know that, actually. I have to go ahead and check the places where I go to checkout aisles and see if they comply, and then I'll raise hell if they
That's
don't.
If the 7-Eleven's under 5,000 square feet, then you only need one? Is that the...
Mm-hmm. Well, now you know, 5,000 square feet, checkout aisles. You'll never forget that. Grab bars. You probably should know this one.
Well, definitely not 4. That's a bit excessive. I think it's 2 or 3.
I think you're right. I always thought it was 1.5, though.
Yeah, that's why I think 2.5 seems really big. That's why I'm gonna go with 2 or 3.
What does it mean to say 5-inch perimeter or 4.5? What is the perimeter talking about?
When you grab the part you grab. Okay, so it was 3.
It's number 3. Good choice. You get a free grab bar.
Could you go back? Okay.
2 inches maximum across cross section, 4 inches perimeter.
Wait, when you have, the code says that the projection of the grab bar can't be more than, I believe, 4 inches from
That's
the wall.
That's the projection, not the perimeter of the grab bar. This is the actual grab bar itself.
When you say perimeter, you don't mean circumference, you mean what? The diameter? I don't understand the question.
Now, let's
Well,
go back to the
it can be
question
any
again.
shape, so it doesn't. Not every shape has a circumference. Like if it's an oval versus a square profile.
You
So
look
when
at
they
the
say
diagram
perimeter,
here.
Yeah, this diagram shows 2-inch inside. Where's the 4-inch?
The 4-inch is the maximum,
Outside.
like I guess
that-
incentive circumference.
But
Yeah,
I'm
like the
saying
leader-
that if it's 4-inch, then if you had a 4-inch maximum diameter, you'd be projecting much more than 4-inch against the wall. Doesn't seem to work for, like, I don't know, stairs and,
This is for a grab bar, not a stair. It's different.
right, it's true.
The stairs
Yeah,
only
yeah.
have to be 1 3/4.
Yeah. You're right, grab bars, thicker, you're right. Okay, thank you, I forgot about that. I didn't hear the question.
Okay, you better get this one right or else I'm quitting.
We're failing.
Okay. Select the correct dimension with the corresponding location. Selections may be used more than once. So What are these? Got 48, 60 inches, 48 inches, 60 inches, 66 inches,
60.
60 all
60.
around.
60 all around. Everybody
60
agree?
all around.
Yeah, I
Yes.
don't-
Okay, good. We can all go home now.
5 feet.
You passed the test. If anybody gets that wrong, I don't want to hear from you.
you always gotta think of time and space too.
What?
The openings in the grill, I didn't even know that was a code.
This is for the mat when you first go in. To an
Yeah.
Oh, the floor on the ground. You mean that?
It's a surface grill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's important because, people with,
Heels.
yeah.
I actually had that. I can't remember. I actually had a client who wore high heels, and we had to figure out what this code was.
I think is it a quarter inch?
I was thinking 0.25.
Yeah,
Going with
that would be my
0.25.
guess.
You know, you need at least 4 inches.
Yep.
Half
Ooh,
inch.
Half inch. Wow, that
Wow.
seems big.
That does not cover Jimmy Choo's.
No.
I agree with that. High heels, like that doesn't seem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a client who we put a grill next to her front door because we had some drainage stuff, whatever, and there was a. And I
It's
remember
trying-
we measured
it's
up her heels.
It's trying to discourage people with a less than a half inch heel.
To walk on it.
Yeah.
They're getting rid of that. They're getting rid of those shoes.
Not gonna be the code anymore.
Because those
Exactly.
because those become spikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, half inch.
We
So
all-
remember that, half inch, okay?
Is everybody there?
It's two correct answers. I think everybody's contemplating shooting themselves.
We're trying to think what would be the exception. I'm
would
gonna
get rid of
guess the
daycare.
animal. Huh?
I would get rid of daycare center. I mean, you'd want to keep that, right? So
Yeah.
Well, I'm also thinking of what would be like. Where is it not? I'm thinking of an animal containment area. They might be okay if it's a half-inch change in level. I don't think there's any real danger there.
in the senior center, I'd want that to be 100% accessible.
Hmm.
And because a senior citizen could be in a museum, I would do that.
Museum's also a public area, so I feel
Mhm.
like that'd be really strict.
But what about a spa? I mean, I guess a senior would be in a spa.
I think I've seen the situation in gyms before.
But
Yeah, anything raised in a gym, like a boxing ring or a raised
Like an elevated floor.
Yeah.
the pool is excluded. Any raised element is excluded in the gym.
So take out 1 and 4.
well, we got pick two, so pick
Oh,
1 and 4.
1 and 4. Okay, so dogs are not going to trip, basically. So what? You got it.
okay.
Those are correct. Animal containment areas and sports activity areas. But again, so the change in the important thing here is probably this guy right here, right? Quarter inch.
If there is a change greater than a quarter inch, is there a maximum threshold slope that you can do?
I think
Like if you want to
half-inch.
tape the threshold or something.
I know half-inch is the saddle for ADA is at half-inch, and it has to be chamfered after that to the whatever 3/4.
I'm going to go see my section here. See if I've got it. You're not seeing my screen, are you?
Yes, I can
Oh,
see.
you are? So you're looking
Well-
at, no, you're looking at my formulas?
We're looking at your PDF, the question still.
Oh, okay. Well, just a second. I'm just going to my formula section to find that question on the slopes. Hang on a second.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna sign off. I'll see you
Alright.
next week.
Have
Okay.
fun,
Alright,
don't
see you
lose
later.
Thanks. I'm gonna go see 2 ballerinas on stage.
Nice.
So, yeah, should be good.
Well, make sure they're following the ADA code.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm gonna have them bring a tape measure and start looking at those thresholds.
By the way, you did good on those videos.
Oh, thanks. I was wondering if you guys.
You and our I was going to say doctor, but our professor.
Oh yeah, I totally
That's the
forgot
two
those were in there, and then I came across the first one. I was like, whoa. So, all right, see you guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
See you.
Now I'm looking for, right now I can't find that restriction or that slope. Well, we'll have to look for it. More
Okay,
detail.
that's fine.
Okay. This is a hotspot question, so you got to drag one of these inches, maximum inches over to these two spaces.
So 80 inches all the way on the right, and then 36.
27
No, 27.
on the left.
27 and 80.
Yes.
Okay. Good job. Well, so now you know that you're not going to bump your head. You got that down. You're going to take a tape measure with you when you go to those places. Hang on a second. Let me get rid of this. They need your calculator. So what's step one?
Well, step one.
What was the first thing you need to do?
3,500 times 150. So 525,000, and then you're going to multiply that by 1.12.
Yep.
So they're over. So you obviously need to either reduce scope or reduce phase.
Okay, so for everybody else, if you're over budget, then what do you need to do? What should the architect do?
In terms
3
of
and 4, I think. Or,
Yeah, 3 and 4.
I think 3 and 4 are two of the options.
You got to choose 3.
I wouldn't reduce the scope of work. To go back to your client, and I wouldn't get rid of the project either.
So maybe 3, 4, 5. Because you can always phase it.
It could be 2, 3, and 4.
Or 2, 3, 4.
Phasing would definitely be out. That's more
The
expensive.
trap, the answers that I know are trap is to quit the job or to get other contractors that are lower.
So maybe 2, 3, 4.
I agree. I would get rid of. I would not phase work. That just would add more cost.
So you're saying 2, 3, and 4 are correct?
No, that's not.
No?
That's what I think it is.
Wait, all right. I wouldn't if you've already interviewed 4, usually do 3. To interview a 5th wouldn't necessarily be helpful. All right, so then,
Yeah, and they're qualified contractors. Note
Yeah.
in the question, right? They're qualified, so their
2 and
estimates are
3
probably accurate.
2 and 3 is valid. So I guess you'd have to go with value engineering the project and reducing scope of work. I guess I'm wrong.
So 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first thing is to figure out. So yeah, it's over budget. So 2, 3, 4.
I think they want you to know 4 is a slam dunk because they want us to get used to the idea that we need to go to the client and say, no lowballing, you've got to reduce your scope.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, is there, when I see the words like client occupied, essentially they're renovating an interior space of a building that's occupied. I mean, that it takes, I mean, you have to be careful with what contractors you're using in that scenario. So I guess what the reason I'm saying that is it goes hand in hand with qualified contractors, which would make 1 really not, I guess I'm confirming that 1 really doesn't make much sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you sorted it out right. 2, 3, 4 seems to be the only correct answers in this. You don't turn project work down. You just have to work out with it. I mean, the client's obviously got to have to deal with making a decision. They may not like the decision, but they're going to have to decide what to do. And they usually ask you to find other choices that are less costly, right? Okay, this is, I'll have to go zoom out. This one. Okay, here's a topographic study of the client's site. He wants to maximize the site for views, optimum views of the bay on the south side of the property. Wants to minimize building costs, have a low impact footprint by avoiding building down the slope. So they don't want to build down the slopes, they're going to go horizontally. So what area of the topographic study will the budget biggest concern for the architect when laying out the building plan and constrain the project the most? So you got a main road, probably not, right?
No.
Protected the setbacks, probably. Protected trees, maybe, because there's space in there. The widest space is 50 meters, so you could get the building in between there, but you're limited by the setbacks. Contours, yeah, 10-foot contours, steep.
The bay is across the road.
No, it's south.
It's the star.
Yeah, the star's south. That's what star's the north and southeast west arrow.
Oh, got it.
So the base to the south. So he's going to be building a building there looking south, and he's constrained by what?
Well,
you can't build down the slope, so it's not going to be an issue going vertical, north south. It's going to be an issue going to east west, right?
Yeah, we have buildable or protected trees. 3 of them.
So what do you think? Choose one.
I mean, even if you're building on a slope, so you have cut and fill, I think that's okay, but you have to get access to the main road adjacent to all these protected trees. So you're kind of like straddle them essentially.
So the arrow that says 50, I think, meters, and it goes from end to end, would that be where you would place the house? Along that?
Well, if you see the contour, the contours, I don't know if you could see it, but the contours are going kind of east-west, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't want to build down the slope, so you're going to have to put the building east-west. So it's going to have to be that way. So to me, it looks like
The trees
you
are
could fit it.
kind
You could fit it between the two trees.
Mm-hmm.
So you're limited by the setback, right? The setbacks are what constraining you.
Is there a way to draw this?
That's my opinion. Is there a way to what?
To draw? So you're supposed to drop a point or a rectangle?
No, you're just supposed to pick one of these words over here.
Oh,
Which one of these is the biggest constraint to lay out the project?
I think it's the two protected tree areas, because if you want to build between those two zones, you would be bound by that dimension.
Okay, so you're saying protected trees?
Yes.
I feel like all of it's in the way. Because even the property line, if you look on like the upper left, it's on an angle, so you kind of gotta come back in. Like you can't have a very deep building because that angle's kind of in the way, or you'd have a weird shape.
Well, I think the issue here is all of these could be really major issues, right? So now you got to pick the best one, the best answer that's going to be the biggest constraint.
Well, there's trees in the setback, it looks like, so I'm gonna go with the trees. Because since there's already trees in the setback, removing the setback wouldn't help. Oh, and it was setback.
So the point here was that obviously the setbacks are all around. So everywhere you go, there's a setback. Is that how you thought of it?
Yeah, because obviously if you didn't have the setbacks, you could probably expand the building out east or west. That's it. Whereas you could fit it in the site, even with the trees there.
I don't know. I feel like
Yeah,
this,
but there's trees in the setback, so it wouldn't make it. If you look, there's still trees in the setback, so I don't know if that would
Right, but
even
not
help.
everyone.
Right.
with that logic, then it's the property line.
Yeah, exactly.
That is
Yeah.
what?
It's then that logic. It's the property line, because the property line is just that doesn't. I think it's kind of a dumb question. I would argue that it would be the property line. I have to build on my lot or setbacks. I don't know. I think this
But
question.
setbacks are set by the property line.
Right, exactly. So then it's the property line. Out of a hierarchy of importance, it's the property line.
Yeah, but it doesn't give property line as a option though.
It does. Property line is there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's on the, I'm sorry. I'm looking at everything on the left.
I think, yeah, but I think the issue here is that you give you can't alter the property line. But you can't, and so you got to deal with the fact that you got the property line. I don't know. You're right. I mean, it's a complicated question.
I think it's since the property line is a given, it's sort of in the question of restricted. Probably the next stringent thing is the setback. I think that's the logic, but it is a bad question.
Okay, let me see if I can zoom this in more. So I'll get the question, and then you have to read the. So the client seeks to minimize site disturbance. Select appropriate structural system. Heavily wooded at forest. What type of foundation should the architect select in order to minimize site disturbance and incorporate existing trees in the design? Choose one. So what type of foundation would you pick for this type of a project?
I would take the piles out because you have to bring in a pile driver, and I feel like the shaking of driving piles would disturb it a lot.
Well, I mean, there's different. You can do like
Helical
rotary
piles?
friction piles. We do those
Yeah,
a
it could
lot
be.
in
It could
residential.
be I think they mean posted pile, that kind of thing here,
Okay.
as opposed to
Can you
all
go
the
to
others. All the others would require excavation, right?
Yeah. So I would definitely go with pile then.
Can you just read the question? Can I see the question on the phone? It's a coastline. All I see is trees.
Yeah, it's
With-
covered with trees, and they want to minimize disturbance.
Coastline. I think that's
Oh,
Well, raft foundation would be the worst.
Yeah.
it's actually,
Yeah, if you do these strips or pads, you got to really get a machine in there and take trees down. Whereas a pile, that's assuming that they mean post here. Let's see what they're doing. Pile foundations. Yeah, so they're using posts. to get the trees in and out around the building.
Mhm.
Everything else requires significant site disturbance.
So that plan that they're showing, that's actually like a deck plan?
That's probably the outline of the building.
I'm confused by that too.
Okay. It just looked like, it kind of looks like a deck on the,
It says design layout and existing trees. Okay.
but yeah, the pile still makes sense though.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the layout of these shapes, you really can't get an excavator in there without taking trees down to do any of these other foundations except for the pile or the post, which is what they've done here. They're showing this is all built up around so trees can grow up. You couldn't save these trees if you're putting a foundation underneath this curve, right?
Mhm.
No way.
Could you put in a pad though? I mean, pile makes sense, but then pad would be the next one.
No, I don't think they have pad as a choice.
Yeah.
Oh, they do have a pad. Pad you could do, I suppose, but because it's on the coastline, that's probably why they're probably going in deep.
Okay, that makes sense.
Aren't you not supposed to, I mean, a pad getting that close to the trees, like their canopy, typically like isn't the canopy the extent of their roots for main, like, I guess that's the general rule of thumb that I've always known. And that if you cover that at some point, you're gonna stress the trees.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm doing a big project right now on an island in Belize, and we're putting piles in. We're basically posts that we're doing. We're using auger foundations, if you know what I mean. So they're actually screwed in.
Yeah.
So we can get really close to the trees. And we're going deep because the buildings are up 12 feet off the ground for sea level rise. So this is not 12 feet, but looks like it's about 6 feet off the ground. But I think those are important things to know about the piers, and the Ching book has a good illustrations of those different foundations. What are the key applications for planted screens? Choose 4. So eliminate 2. Eliminate 2. That
I
don't
think we
fit.
could eliminate 3.
It was like, yeah, eliminate 3 because you could just walk through it.
And
Okay,
6.
3's out. 6 is out.
Because again, boundaries. Nope, never mind. You could totally do that. I mean, people do that commonly everywhere.
I'm thinking maybe 2. I don't know that plants would take away the glare.
If you had like let's say you had like a lake right next to a building or something like that, you could get a lot of glare off of it. So you might do like a planting screen between it and your building or
Okay.
something like that.
Okay, that might make sense.
Yeah, I think 6 is doable, but I'm not wondering if that's actually a key application. Is that like, okay, I want to outline my property, so I'm going to put trees there. Maybe.
I've seen it mainly for privacy.
So the question is whether 6 is better than the other answers.
I don't know about 5.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let's see.
Say 2 and 4.
You're right.
Okay.
So it comes from this table, apparently, from site planning design book. Yeah, these are the ones that kill you, right? These kinds of questions where you're down to getting everything right except for between one and the final last question, or the correct final answer.
Yeah.
Because you can get all the rest right, but miss one out of the 4. That's what. Okay, calculator time. How many square feet's in an acre?
43,560.
I only remember the 43,000.
I remember 44. But
Yeah, you gotta have that. You gotta know that for this answer, I think. You gotta calculate 2.8 acres times 43,560.
Yes, 43,560. Okay.
Well, oh yeah, square feet. Crap.
8. $22,652. Would it just be 25% of 2.08 acres? Oh no, I'm doing this wrong. 2.08 times 4.6. Like 8,600.
8,600 square feet?
Yeah.
So walk everybody through your logic.
So 2.08 times 43,560. That's the total site. The next step, the program seeks to occupy 38%. So multiply the product of that by 0.38, and then that's your total workable area. And if you want to occupy 25% of that, again, you multiply that number by 0.25.
Okay, so you're not including the hardscape, right? Water feature
Correct.
gardens.
Yeah.
Everybody follow that? Let's see if he's got it right. Then you can go home. Okay.
22,000.
Did you round it up, or you round to the nearest unit, right?
Could you go back up?
Wait, what?
so it does include the hardscape and buildable area.
Okay, so then I was right the first time.
Or does it not include that?
So you did 2.2 times 43560.
Yeah, okay, so what I just said was I went one step too far. So you should just take 25% of the full site.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Which is my first answer.
I'm sorry, the answer is 71,000. No.
The answer is just 25% of 2.08 acres.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, this is again reading an IBC chart. So determine the number of required plumbing fixtures. You're going to see this not only on this exam, but probably also on PDD. Architect is designing an art museum. Occupancy load will be over 400. So how many lavatories are required? So first thing you got to know is what's an art museum classification? Anybody know? Here's a chart. You got this chart to look at in this one. So you got to pick what's the classification of an art museum. I'll stop here and you can look at the chart.
A3.
A3. Does everybody see that?
Yeah.
Museums. Right here. So 1 per 2 lavatories is 1 per 200, right? And the question says occupancy will be over 400. So what would be the number of lavatories required?
3.
Everybody agree?
Was it one for male, one for female then? Would it be 6?
No, that's urinals. That's water closets. Lavatories, 1 per 200. They include male. That's male and female lavatories.
Yeah, okay.
So you said 3? Does everybody agree? Disagree? Boy,
we go back to the question? I'm sorry.
I think this is the key right here.
Yeah, because you go so over 200.
It's going to be over 400. So this is saying 1 per 200. So 2 lavatories would be 400.
Over. Okay, got it.
So if it's over, it's going to be 3, right? Everybody agree?
Mm-hmm.
If it's 401 occupancy, it's going to be 3 units. So this is just more of the same table, but it's just different assemblies. Lavatories, 1 per, so the answer is 3. Because the occupancy will be over 400. A little bit of a trick question, I think, but you understand the logic, right? Of understanding it says over 400.
Mhm.
If it said 400, it would be 2, right?
Yep.
You should know this. What's the maximum length to a dead end?
10 feet.
It's 20.
Yeah, 20, I think.
It's 20, and if it's sprinklered, it's 50.
Sprinkler is 50.
Yeah, and a standard dead end is 20.
Yep, 20 feet. Good.
By the way, is that 20 feet for everything? Or is it, I mean, every type of building or?
No, you can go longer. Depends on the fire, the sprinkler and the fire rating.
But in a residential versus, let's say, a apartment building?
Well, it just
Well-
it goes down to it's the sprinkler or not.
Yeah, it all's governed by this right here. Where more than one exit or exit doorway is required,
yeah.
the exit access will be arranged. So
Okay.
that's what's governing it right there.
Okay, yeah.
Do you want so I have an answer. And other than group A and 8 occupants, the maximum length of an existing dead end corridor shall be 50 feet in buildings equipped throughout with an automatic fire alarm system installed in accordance with IBC. But within that question, it is just 20. There was no other added things.
Yeah, so if you went back to that question, it said sprinkler system. And they gave you 50 feet. Right?
Great.
Okay, see if you get this contract.
3.
Everybody agree? Everybody know what biomimicry is?
Yeah.
No bloody idea, but it does sound like a consultant with a special SP on it.
Yeah, biomimicry is related to sustainability, so it would be an SP. So that's correct. Study of developing designs based on nature. Okay, that's it on that. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Okay,
All right.
let's see. We can do. Let's try this case study. Can you read this?
Yes.
It's a new museum. Somebody needs to mute their.
That's mine. Sorry.
They're coming for you. Your house is on fire. We should see if you got any smoke behind you.
Is this in Detroit?
Let's see. Yep, this looks like Henry Ford building. It's a new museum facility, historic automobile factory. Designed by Albert Kahn.
Yeah, I worked for Albert Kahn for a while.
Oh, you did? So you know this building. Okay, so you better get all these right.
I'm not sure about that.
He's famous for developing the con beam, the high rib, steel sash windows, skylighting, factory construction. These innovations resulted in material resource efficiency, increased fire resistance, thin floors, natural lighting, vertical functionality. So a nonprofit organization has retained a firm to design an interactive museum that features the existing historic factory complex. So this is the requirements. Interactive experiences. We may have to come back to this if we have a question. 200-seat theater, picnic area. It's going for LEED Platinum for the new building and LEED Silver for the historic building. So there it is. That's what it used to look like, apparently.
So what part is the con beam? Is that just the structure overall, like the
Oh, here
concrete?
here it is, right here. This is a high rib concrete beam that he designed, came up with.
Okay.
I don't understand. The high read beam is that first image on top, or the
No, it's a slab.
this one? Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's a slab on top of the flat roofs.
And it's a
probably.
turned up beam.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called a high rib.
I have to say I'd never heard of this beam, so
He actually did a lot of very innovative things, and he was very influential, believe it or not, in the Bauhaus movement too. They were watching a lot of things that he was doing.
David, you look too young to have been working for an old man like that.
I actually lived in one of his buildings too, in Detroit.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is your square footage for buildings A, B, and C. This is a site location. This is pictures of the location. There's my car. It's outside in the garage.
And you can get it in any color as long as it was black.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, I'll zoom in here. Okay, if we have to go back to those the scenario, we will. But so this is what we first question.
So this is a historic building, and well, LED lighting you could do, right? Because that's easy. It doesn't impact the building whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
However, roof-mounted solar electrical panels would be problematic because you're changing the envelope.
I would say the same thing for a green roof.
Yeah, I agree. Pervious pavement would be good though, because that doesn't have an impact.
Yeah, the key word here you're looking for is restoration, right? It's historic building. So any sustainability elements which might impact the preservation, restoration of the buildings would be negatives.
I can't imagine putting skylights in. That would be very invasive.
Yeah.
Okay, so take out 2, 3, and 6.
Yeah. So 1, 4, and 5.
Well,
One.
5 has nothing to do with
I'm confused. How does
LEED, green building.
That's true.
And
Because
why
it
does
says,
it
what are the
have-
green building elements to be permitted? There's nothing about a bathroom that's green.
I agree.
I think 3 should be allowed.
Yeah. I mean, it would be like within the parapet, not really affecting view from the exterior from below.
Yeah, I could allow 3. I imagine 4 is okay too. And I didn't understand the issue with pervious pavement. Not in
Yeah,
the building, so I don't know, but
wouldn't a green roof be just as, on that argument, wouldn't a green roof be just as a non-invasive as roof-mounted electrical solar panels? You wouldn't see it from the street.
True.
The green roof is heavy, though. Wouldn't you have to replace the structure?
most of these
Possibly.
historic buildings are overbuilt anyway.
It's not
That's true.
And an Albert Kahn building very likely could take a green roof. I mean, these things were
Okay.
made
That's
for
true, 'cause it's concrete.
significant loads.
Okay,
I
so
would say 2, 3, and 4.
so what are we going with?
I would say 2, 3, and 4.
You're taking those out, so you're picking 1, 3, and
But-
6.
No, I think
Okay.
she's picking 2, 3, 4.
Oh,
I
2,
would
3, and
pick
4.
2, 3, 4. Choose 3. That it's not a negative question, is it?
What's permitted?
For me, these would be permitted to do a green roof, a solar panel, and LED lighting that are relevant. I
I
don't know.
would keep pervious pavement. I would do 1, 4. The question is, what's the third? The next.
Pervious pavement. The only thing with pervious pavement is that some of that street cobblestones and things sometimes are themselves historical. I don't know if they have them here, but 4 and 6. Wow. The skylight is permitted.
Well, that's.
Oh, that's because they're already in it per those photos.
Yeah, it didn't say restore the skylights though.
It
Yeah.
says, well,
So skylight
it's natural light, so I guess you wouldn't see the skylight anyways. 'Cause it's flat.
I totally agree with number 6, but the question wasn't worded as restoring the skylight. It was adding new skylights. You could interpret it either way. That's what I hate about these questions. If you go back to it, it's not, I need a skylight in the bathroom now. It just says skylights.
What does it say about pervious pavements, exterior surface? So that doesn't impact the building. So I think that's why that's
yeah,
out.
plus skylight and skylit ceilings are different.
That makes sense. I'll buy that, but I think 6 is, again, this goes back to how frustrating these tests are. It's just not existing skylights. Then I would be like, yeah, you can definitely restore an existing skylight. Skylight in itself.
Well, look at the 6 answers and pick the 3 that are the best. Not necessarily that they're right, but that they're the best. So if you look at 5, right, I think you eliminated that one correctly, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then number 1 is not related to the building, so that would be another. It's okay. I mean, that would be a sustainability principle you could use, but it's not impacting the building. And number 3 is, I think somebody said that probably roof-mounted solar electric would be something you might be able to see, but it was significantly difficult.
I said actually, I argue that you wouldn't see it from
If the-
below
in the
on
par-
like a 4-story
in-
building. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess you have to look at the building again and see what it looks like. I suppose you could hide it up there, but maybe not. I don't see that.
I take
But
that
you
back.
wouldn't see solar panels on the roof either.
I'm
Well,
wrong.
solar panels would be at an angle typically. They're not usually flat.
I'm totally wrong. If in those photographs, I'm looking at existing skylights, I should know them. That would be part of the preservation.
You're right. This is all skylight ceiling.
Yeah, so skylights would be in keeping. Yeah, this is a flat roof. I mean, you probably could get some up here, but you still might, if you put them in the center, you might not see PVs.
Hmm. So
I
what
don't
building
see
B was the
skylight in
skylight
these roof
corridor?
lines.
Correct.
Yeah, this is all skylights, I think.
Oh.
Yeah,
Was
B
the
and
original
skylight.
intent.
Gotta lose a few, you know.
By the way, Albert Kahn was long dead when I worked at Albert Kahn.
We just thought you looked good for
Yeah,
your age.
when
that's
did
all.
he die? You
I worked in Eero Saarinen's office, so he was dead too. We had a lot of dead architects walking around the office.
with Fry and Pay, and he just died.
Yeah. Okay. What are the environmental challenges of this historic site? Choose 4. So eliminate 2 that don't fit.
Well, it's not wetland.
Okay.
No, there's no water. I'm not
It's
sure.
a brownfield.
Well, how would structural defect be an environmental challenge? Unless we have like bad soil.
Lead could definitely be part of it.
Yeah, there's definitely lead paint in these old buildings.
Well, environmental challenges could include air quality, soil quality, toxicity of the environment due to materials, structural failure. I don't know if that would be considered environmental challenge. Maybe universal design. That's a tough one.
I don't think graffiti is a challenge.
Well, if you're in the inner city, it could be.
But isn't universal design about ADA?
So what are you going to take out?
Take out 3.
Take out no wetlands. Okay. Are you sure? I don't know.
I would
No,
say
I'm not sure. I would say you would take out the ones that have nothing to do with the environment, structural defects.
I would
that
say
one
column 6.
You know what? I know Detroit. I don't know that there are wetlands. There is a river that was paved over. It's actually several rivers.
Yeah, let's go back to the site plan.
Yeah, I didn't see any water, but it's kind of far out.
It is in the Detroit River. This is like River Rouge. So,
Do you think it'd be that far inland?
well,
I don't see any evidence of water.
yeah, they did bury over a lot of roads in Detroit.
Oh, there's a, what's that? Oh, that's a railway. That's a train. Okay.
Crap, this is always so hard. What does graffiti have to do with?
It doesn't.
And universal design is just about accessibility. How is that environmental?
We're going to find out.
All
It's
right.
the one I would remove.
I mean, transportation. Yeah.
So no wetlands, no graffiti.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So what is universal design? I mean, this is really officially confusing me.
It is universal design is the design of buildings, products, and the environment to make them accessible to all people regardless of age, disability, or other factors. So because it does deal with environment.
Identify the best location for the interactive experience C. Does everybody remember what that C was? We need to go back and look
No.
at it. Okay. Go back and see what it was. Experience C.
Oh, outdoor playground.
Interactive children's outdoor playground featuring automobile themes. Okay.
So outdoor playground.
Is this it? Okay. Can you see that? Or do I need to blow it out?
Mm,
Interactive playground. Where would you pick it? There's a hiking trail up here on the side. Public park is over here. Proposed picnic area.
What
Is this a hotspot question?
Let's see. Yeah, hotspot. So
it would have to be on the property, within the property line.
yeah, it probably has to be in the property line.
So I wouldn't want to put it near the train
Yeah, I agree with that.
or the street.
Put it near the train.
I said not.
It's a hiking and biking trail, though.
It's
That's a
a
biking
it's a
trail. I
biking
would
trail
think
now.
to go like between that picnic area and the hiking biking trail. That little lot kind of seems nice because you'd want the playground next to the picnic area.
Yeah, and it needs to be visible too. I mean, I can see
Okay, anyway,
parents being at the picnic area and
you're picking not anywhere here, not anywhere in the south, but up here
correct.
somewhere. So it's a question of where they're going to have a tolerance for your dropping in the hotspot. Is it going to be in this area or right next to the building? Because people will go in, they'll be looking at the museum, then they'll go outside to this interactive sea. Because then over here you've got the picnic area. So would you put it here, here, or here?
What is the question again? Sorry.
Where you're gonna
Identify
put the
the
kids
best,
playground?
the best location for the interactive experience C, which is an interactive playground with automobile themes.
Where
Now,
are the cars parked?
Now I don't know if you'd put it. It depends. If the hot spot is here, here, or here, if you've got three choices, I'm not sure of what their tolerant level is.
I'd go safe and put it in the middle.
Put it in the middle.
Right where those trees are.
But
Okay.
so if it's a part of the museum though, and if it needs to be like
Right next to it.
fenced off or something like that, yeah, it
The
doesn't.
J-
You don't want people accessing it from like the public.
I agree. Why would you want to get rid of the trees too, or the landscaping for fake Model Ts?
Well,
Yeah, I might go closer.
before we do that, let's just go back and look at the other interactive exhibits. So one is a climate-controlled area for guests to experience driving vintage automobiles. Aha. So they're going to drive automobiles around.
Yeah.
Full-scale models of various vehicles built in the factory. Also, plus demonstration of Albert Kahn's concrete innovations. That could all be indoors. This climate-controlled area means it would be indoors too, right? So C is probably outdoor. So that's going to be outdoors. Okay, that makes more sense now. So it would be outdoors. Okay, so the question is whether you take it in the trees or you put it near the building, right? Probably not at this area, right? That's a picnic area.
Yeah.
So it's either going to be here or here.
I think it's gonna be closer.
Right here.
I agree.
Yeah.
Boom.
At the trees.
Don't listen to me.
Highly
What
visible
kind of-
area, accessible from the adjacent public park, proposed picnic area, distant from parking and traffic.
That's what I thought there was
Orientation will
traffic
also
around the
provide-
building.
Orientation will also provide cooling breeze.
I was also thinking of it as in terms of being close to the picnic area. Because you're thinking if people are at the picnic area, the kids are going to be like on the
Well,
playground
I
with the
think-
parents in the picnic area.
I think to answer your question, I think they probably would, I don't know, if they would count if you put it here or not. I think the reason maybe this is difficult is because, well, I don't know. That's a tough question.
The cooling breeze would hit any of the places we just talked about, though.
Yeah.
Okay, chalk that up for frustrating.
I'm gonna
This one is too, definitely tuning to need
I'm gonna say because it's historic. We had a previous question that says we don't have to do the elevator because it would greatly interfere with the historical context. So it seems like the elevator one might be out based on that previous question.
What's messing with me is the or.
True, because if it's exterior, it might not be
Right.
so bad. But it would alter the physical appearance of the
Multi-story, you can't get to the exterior until you get through, the exit stairway. So you have to have an interior one to the stairway from the 2-hour rated stairway to the outside. So that or is really messing with me.
I would kill out 4.
I mean, this is about having, if I understand question, is how many exits does a multi-story building need? Is that what the question is?
Yes,
Isn't it two-
existing, a historic building though.
Do you have a ramp?
historic or not, it's 2 story. I've got two.
Do we have a ramp?
Well, this is adding
I don't
to
think
it.
it matters.
Do we need a ramp? Because I could cross out two answers.
I don't think you would have a ramp from the second story.
Yeah, I agree.
For
You're
fourth
gonna have
story, it's four stories.
Either interior or exterior.
I would kill off
I think
1 and 4. Is that what you're saying? You would-
Yeah. I think it might be two.
Because you could do an interior elevator, one interior or exterior. So you can do one
but
interior.
That's only one exit. But I don't think that would work because during a fire, you're not supposed to
Anyway,
take the
elevators are
elevator.
not exits.
Do we have to
Yeah,
do
you're not supposed to.
the number by looking at the question? Is that what they're asking us to do?
Well, it says exits and elevators.
Or not exits? Yeah.
I wouldn't count
Elevators are
those.
not exits. I would stay with stairways as the means of exits.
I'm gonna vote two.
We're supposed to
How about
consider
two?
everything above the second floor, but it's a 4-story regarding code requirements.
It's just each story
Doesn't
above the
matter.
second floor, not just the second floor.
I would, for the purposes of this exercise, say to you guys, everything is two means of egress.
Well, if
But
you
then
don't like
it's
if you don't like the
fire
idea of if you don't like the idea of ramps, then 1 and 4 would go out,
Right.
Yeah.
and the elevators 3 would go out because of the.
Right.
Yeah, that's why
Exit.
I'm stuck on.
So that limits you to number 2, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Mhm. Oh, a ramp.
The ramp does, or I guess that's the or. So
Well,
That's-
you would have a ramp from the fourth floor?
What?
That
No.
doesn't make any sense.
This does not make sense to me. So it's
Page
saying you only need
266.
one interior or one exterior exit stairway, or
But it said
one
from
interior,
each-
one exit ramp.
And it said from each floor above the second floor, which means up to the fourth floor. I can't imagine a ramp coming down from the
Let's pull
fourth
up to
floor.
the actual section 1021.1 and see what it's saying.
That makes sense.
Okay, I've got my IBC up here.
Good number. Door.
Chapter 10, right?
Page
Means of egress.
266.
266. Oh,
That's
that's
the
not going
page.
to work. That's not going to work on this. What was the section number?
1021.1.
1021.
Point one.
Point 1.
So, I mean, where the hell is the ramp?
That seems like it'd be a very long ramp.
Unless there's like an elevation change because of the existing site or something.
Yeah, I think you're confusing the fact that they got the or in there, because the or doesn't mean you have to use it.
Yeah.
It doesn't work necessarily, but you just have to pick one of the solutions.
Yeah, but then it means that we only need one stair. It's either one interior or exterior stair.
So only one means of
When was the
egress seems
last
kind of
building you ever
limited.
had one stair?
Yeah, that's for a public building. That seems.
It
But
was
maybe
never-
I guess because of the size of it, maybe because the existing building is small, you only need one exit.
It's 4 stories.
That's still taking me time to get to 1021. Was it 1021?
Four-story building.
Yes.
There's something we're not reading right about this question.
That's true. 4 stories, it has to be a lot of people. That's weird. Or maybe just a historical thing where you get that weird exception.
I mean, they would have fire escapes in the old days if they needed to. I mean, it's not that.
Yeah, there was like a small floor plan showing showing the stairwells. I think we passed it early.
I'm not there yet. 1021. Come on.
Remember how like cartoons, if the building was on fire, people would have to jump out the window onto a trampoline? Why can't we do that? That sounds like fun.
In the house, you could, but in the building.
Oh,
you
this must be.
4 stories. We get a big trampoline.
It's not working the way I've got it, because I've obviously got the wrong. I believe 2015. That's probably from 2012.
Well, it shouldn't be from 2012.
Oh yeah, that's
Industry.
2012. Why don't we just Google it?
Yeah. That's what I'm gonna do.
Well, that's a confusing way to go.
Yeah, that's probably from 2012. So I'd have to go back to 2012 and look for it.
It says it is.
But that's kind of weird. Why would we have a 2012 question?
Oh, that's from Ching.
So I don't think that means an egress issue.
Let's see if I can read it from Ching's book. Page 266. No, that's not right either. Because that's on exhaust fans.
What?
Continuous air barriers, page 266 in Ching. Okay. I'll have to research that more. Number of exits and exit configuration. One
You want to-
interior or exterior exit stairway or one interior or exit ramp. So your choice is one interior exit way would work, or one exterior exit stairway would work, or one interior ramp would work, or one exterior. So forget about the ramp. So this would be one interior exit stairway would be sufficient. Whereas number 2 was 2 interiors. So the difference is it only requires one interior exit stairway
But for 4 stories, that doesn't seem logical.
or one exterior exit stairway would be according to code, not 2.
It's a very small footprint.
Maybe it means you could do one interior, one exterior, and well, it's dumb. Anyway, that's a bad question. It makes you think you can get away with one stair.
Yeah, I don't think any building department would approve that.
No, it's not. It's never going to do that.
Okay, can you see this? Identify
Yes.
the zoning district a project site is located. So what's a zoning district?
Down, mixed use?
hmm
Mixed
As
use?
long as the site is not highlighted like a color for no reason.
It's either mixed use or urban village mixed use.
Oh no, it's mixed.
Urban,
It's
Mixed
like mixed use.
It looks more like mixed use.
it looks like,
Yeah.
that's a great question. I thought it was urban village mixed use, but it could be mixed use.
What if you're colorblind? Like, that's like against.
Yeah, it's mixed use.
Oh, that sucks.
Again, like, I agree that, is that oxblood to you, or you're like,
Or wetlands.
So we know wetlands is out.
Yeah.
Choose 3.
Solar access is out.
Maybe the flooding, because we're kind of far from the water. I didn't see anything regarding flooding.
Yeah, but it's got to be super flat over there, though.
It does look super flat in the pictures.
Detroit is really flat, but I have never known the Detroit River to flood, or Lake St. Clair, or any of those things.
There was
Wouldn't it be historic preservation?
I think it, yeah,
Oh, we should be. I was crossing out things.
I would do the
Yeah.
last four.
Last three.
4 you'd want to keep.
Solar access, does that mean getting sun into the building?
And we know you want to keep 5 because that was another question.
I'd want to know about traffic. You know, is there one-way, two-way lights?
Yeah, I'll go back and look at this site again. That's a lot of 6-lane highway.
A lot
Right.
of traffic. Oh,
Yeah, I'd be worried about traffic. It's right on.
Yeah,
the
you got to
street.
figure out what you're going to do with all this traffic coming in from both sides, right?
Yeah.
That may be an issue.
You guys know about the Michigan U-turn?
No.
It's a very unique way of dealing with traffic. I've never seen anywhere else.
Okay, so what are you going with?
Well, I would keep.
Traffic, universal design, historical preservation.
So 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, I'd go for it.
4, 5, 6.
Hmm.
Right. All right, got 1 out of 16 questions correct.
Yeah.
You know what? We failed as a team, though.
These are always the issues of it's so difficult to sort through the question and what they're trying to get at. So let's do this. So this is kind of maybe this and one more question. Okay, evaluating the proposed square footage requirements and existing square footage, including the proposed 2-story. What is the total FAR? Round to the nearest 2-point decimal.
Oh.
Okay,
Say this question again, please.
They're your 4. They just want to know what the total floor area ratio is, FAR. Of the existing 3 buildings. So now you got to do some math.
But backwards math?
What's the addition?
Hmm?
What was the addition? 2-story. So that was sorry. The proposed building we need to include 2 at 20,000 square feet.
Yep.
So
Can you go down?
I have a total of 152,800 square feet. Oh, of actual enclosed space. No, I'm wrong. Forget that. Forget it.
So you got to add up this entire site, right?
Right.
Mhm.
So you got to add all that up, but then you take this FAR, you got to add up all these different building square footages,
Right.
including their floor levels.
What was the lot area?
What's the percentage that we're allowed to have?
That's not part of the question though. It's just they want to know what the total floor area is, FAR.
Sure.
2-point decimal.
Can you move down just a little? Thanks.
Anybody got an answer?
Just go in 2 minutes. So I know how
Like,
much
if you-
the footprint
Just
is,
on
and
the
I know
floor,
the
I got
total.
191,800 without the site.
Got a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
Okay, it's adding all these up, right? All
Yeah.
these square footages. Just
Yeah, I got-
we'll give you the total square footage of the site.
I have 287,390.
Okay, and
For
divide
the
it.
building area?
Yeah.
Okay,
The
so
footprint is what
you
I mean.
multiplied building C times 4 floors, right?
Right.
And this was 1 floor, so it's 8,800, and this is 4 floors times 40 times
Oh,
13,000.
287.
Okay,
something.
divide that by the total area. You'll get your FAR.
And I got 145, 140 for the total area.
145.
Yeah.
So what's the FAR? 2 decimals.
2.87.
0.287. So that would be 0.29.
If you round up.
Yeah, you'd round up. Anybody else?
No, I'm gonna turn around.
David, what did you get for the the building area again?
I got 287,390, but I was including the 63,000, the 14,400, and the 18,000.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, I have to include everything in yellow.
So my total is 287,390.
Same.
So I got 1.98 for the FAR.
1.98.
I
Yeah.
got 267,390 for the total area.
Don't forget about the addition though. The
We gotta add that addition to it.
For 20,000.
The 20,000.
Okay, that's what I don't have.
Right. Two additional 2 stories, 10,000 square foot per floor, 2 stories.
So
Anybody?
1.5?
Hmm?
1.5?
1.5, 2 decimals.
I got 1.67.
You got to have 2 decimal points.
Well, if
Okay.
you round it up, because it's 1.498 something something.
So 1.50.
Yeah.
What are you using as your? Okay.
Ah!
0.76. We're all wrong.
Oh, what the shit?
Oh, we divide. Well,
I got
okay.
that and I thought I was wrong.
Obviously, I got the first number wrong. The total site area.
So,
A
Oh,
total.
that's the
What?
footprint of the entire site. It's not the entire floors plus the site. It's
See, I
little,
added the site, so they want the site separate. Ah, crap.
okay. So you got to find all the building floors. Gives you the 191. Then you got to find the actual like flat site property almost per se, and divide them.
Right.
Ugh. All right, I added a little too much.
Yeah. Yeah, there'll be questions on the FAR for sure. Okay, that's our time's up. So the only thing that we'll continue this on our review. I'll continue this case study and we'll do another one. But so everybody's got the. I'll just review this quickly if I can pull it up. Oh, I can't pull it up. It's gone. I was just going over the. Nope. I was just going to go over your schedule, your syllabus with you, so you know the way you're going to be studying for next, right? And up to the exam. Is everybody scheduled to take the exam?
no, I didn't schedule.
I did.
Okay.
Not yet.
I feel behind in this one. There's a lot of stuff to review.
Okay. Well, so we'll go through the review, and then you got people that are going to be taking the test, and then obviously we'll do a kind of a catch up. Send me questions if you got any questions about what you need more focus on. Otherwise, we'll just continue doing some more questions. All right.
Okay.
When are we taking the test for the most part?
In 2 weeks.
In
Yeah.
2 weeks. Yeah.
In 2 weeks.
I'll reschedule for 2 weeks.
Then there's a huge break. We've got a break. So next week is the game day review.
Yeah.
At 9 a.m. and then there's a break between the 20th. Then we basically do a PPD check-in, where I'm just kind of reviewing with you and seeing how you're doing on reviewing for PPD. Okay. And I sent you the reviews package on PPD, right? You got
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot of reading and
Yeah,
prep for PPD. And then after the 30th, on July 7th, we do our in-depth review for PPD. So hopefully everybody will pass PA that you're taking.
Did we get
And,
additional time to study for the PPD and PDD?
Yeah, I think it's like 6
Right.
weeks.
yeah, there's quite a bit of time for that.
And you get an extra 2 weeks from normal.
Yeah.
Which one has the more structural exam in it?
PPD.
Which is, and that's after?
Mm-hmm.
What
Yeah,
about
that's
P?
That's my Achilles heel.
PDD doesn't, well, PDDs, they all have structural, and they've all got calculations in them, but PDD is light on structural.
Okay.
But PPD is not.
PPD, you'll hit some structural calcs.
So that's the time to study that.
My understanding, again, I don't know what's on the freaking test.
telling you, neither they know.
It's freaking tough.
I can share with you what other people are doing. No, I can zero in more on PPD and PDD. PA, as I said, it's pretty much everything we've covered, and just go read go through my PA section resources, and you should be good.
Okay.
How are you doing on the Black Spectacles lectures?
I'm working through it, but quick question. I'm not taking the one I failed until the end, I think, because we're heading into the PPD, PDD, the two tough ones. I think I need time on that.
Mm-hmm.
That on
Yeah, I rethought my strategy too. I'm not gonna touch them until the end.
I figured for my practice, it's good to learn practice management again.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll study well, and we'll get back and refresh again. Send me any questions or topics or specific issues you've got. And yep.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Have a good
Thank
week.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, Paul,
Yes.
I have some specific questions for you.
You want to send them to me?